Part 248. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2477. Of course, this scene was just an illusion. He smiled and didn't pay much attention to it. In short, he experienced what real effort felt like, and to be honest, this feeling was not that bad. Your Excellency 11, your training time has reached the limit. Please take a rest today. Okay. Jia 11 agreed to the trainer's request. After all, he was a starry sky master who was stronger than him. In terms of knowledge and experience, he was much better than himself, a newly promoted starry sky junior. Jia 11, have you always practiced like this on Earth? No wonder you are better than me. Jia 11 finished training and saw Suya waiting for him in the lounge and praised him several times. Haha, does the sun come out from the west? You actually praise me. Jia 11 laughed, and then noticed that Her Highness the Princess was looking at him in confusion. He immediately understood that for an empire with a vast territory, there were hundreds or even thousands of stars like the sun, not to mention those coming from the west. They were all in the north, south, southwest and so on, so he couldn't understand the earth at all. This common saying of people. Well, this is another cultural difference. I will praise anyone who does well, because I am not as boring as your Geo family. As a superior, you need to praise others more, because this is a way to reflect your own magnanimity and give your subordinates more power to work. Suya made big speeches for a while. Jia 11 looked at her speechlessly, feeling that this girl was straight at heart. You praise others, but you also use such big principles to make it seem like your praise is not sincere. You also say that it gives others strength. If you say this, others will immediately lose their motivation, right? Fortunately, Jia 11 doesn't need the power of an imperial princess. He only needs to do things that are worthy of his own heart. Seeing that Jia 11 ignored her and showed no gratitude for her praise, Suya frowned again, feeling that after being with this young man, her superior state of mind was almost completely disturbed by him. Do you feel happy to take off when others receive a few compliments from you? It was better for him not to respond at all. Jia 11, you are now a starry sky level, what is your ultimate goal? Suya asked. Jia 11 looked very impatient. Are you asking me this question casually among friends, or do you want to know my goal so that the empire can be prepared? Suya was dumbfounded. She didn't know what her actual purpose was. She seemed to be asking casually, or she wanted to pretend to be asking casually and get accurate information to hand over to the empire. At the level of her and Jia 11, just a word can have a huge impact, so I feel that neither party can speak too casually. Don't worry, I'm just asking between friends. Besides, strength is something you can't just talk about, even if you are a descendant of the Jia family. Suya finally gave this answer. Jia 11 was stunned for a while, then nodded in agreement. That's right. If you think about something like strength, you can achieve it. I'm afraid that there are already strong people everywhere in this universe. But he still didn't make his goal clear, but said vaguely, as for the strength I want to achieve, it also depends on my ultimate talent. You also know that for a strong man in the universe, 18 years old, it's just the beginning. I will find a way to accept my grandfather's talent test and then practice with him. The level I can reach in the end depends on my true talent. Hearing this, Suya nodded and stopped talking. Both parties are children of the top families in their respective civilizations. Even though they are still immature at this age, they clearly understand what can and cannot be said. Suya, didn't you say that you are thinking of a way to leave recently? How is the situation going? It should be very simple to find some spaceships in this huge base, right? Why haven't the results been achieved yet? Jia 11 suddenly asked about escaping. Why are you like this? Why are you anxious? Do you think the escape I arranged is as simple as leaving this planet? If that is the case, it would be safer to stay here. The entire alien planet is an army of these invaders. Even if we get the spaceship and escape, can you still escape the capture of those fleets in the universe? I am planning an escape route right now. If you think you can do it with a spaceship, I will give you the spaceship now. You run away to me. Suya was originally in a low mood. She praised Jia 11, but Jia 11 didn't appreciate it. Now she was urged to leave. She would definitely be furious. Jia 11 shrank her neck when she yelled out of control, and said solemnly, I just want to ask, why are you angry? My aunt is here. Get out of here, you are the worst person I have ever seen in my life. Suya's face turned red instantly, and she almost didn't make a move against Jia 11. In the subspace, the stone giant clone watched his grandson flee with disgrace after being scolded by a beautiful girl. Tisk tisk, this grandson is really a straight man. I don't know who he looks like. His grandfather is so popular with me, but he doesn't look like me. Tisk tisk, he is so ruthless. Jia Yan was amazed that he even dared to claim that he was destined to be a woman. Well, he seems to have a little bit of affinity with women, but his symptoms as a straight man are much more serious than those of his grandson. But they just refuse to admit it. Are you angry or not? It's really fun. Is this youth? This couple actually has a bit of a future. Of course, it depends on whether my grandson will like her. If he likes her, I will do it, let alone the imperial princess, or the powerful princess in the North Star. Find a way to propose marriage. Jia Yan laughed. The relationship between the Earth Alliance and the Empire, and their respective status issues, were nothing to him, a strong man who had transcended the above issues. With his current level, he does not belong to the level of disputes within the arms of this little Orion. As long as he wants to, he can force both sides to turn their hostility into friendship in an instant, and even allow the Empire to join the Earth Alliance. Of course, even if they join, as long as the racial issues between the two sides still exist, there will still be a long racial issue in the future, which will even consume the huge potential of the entire Orion arm in the future, so Jia Yan does not want to be so reckless unless he has to. But at the very least, Jia Yan didn't take the current relationship between the Earth and the Empire seriously. All problems were trivial under the unstoppable force. It just so happened that when he was lamenting the fun of young people, the Earthling clone had already gone to the Empire. Then the real body, who was far away on the Earth, disappeared into the palace again, and converged the palace into the subspace, was slightly startled. This Empire has become like this. Jia Yan's exclamation was not because the Empire's development exceeded his expectations. He had seen this kind of thing on the way back, and it did not exceed Jia Yan's expectations. The reason for his amazement was that in the underground facilities of the weak civilization's home planet, the empire that Princess Suya had always missed was almost unable to protect itself, let alone sending reinforcements to her. Although Jia Yan had already expected this, he was still a little surprised when he actually saw the miserable situation in the empire. This is an entire star system that has been smashed. The star has vaguely lost a lot of energy. What a powerful weapon was used. Jia Yan saw that something was wrong with the star system. The Earth-like planets, that is, planets suitable for life, were completely destroyed. The most terrifying thing was that the mother of the star system, the star that illuminated the entire star system, turned out to be like it also became depressed, and the light artificially became darker. You know, this is not an easy thing to do. Even if Jia Yan today wants to destroy a star, even a not so large star, it will take a lot of hands and strength. So he was amazed. Of course, it was just a matter of surprise. After feeling the traces of technological weapon energy around this star, there was no need to be too shocked. It seems difficult for the strong to conquer a star, but for technological power, it is a bit easier. Although it may cost a lot of resources, it is not too difficult. And it's not that they failed to destroy the star, but all the other habitable planets in the star system were destroyed. This is war. The number of people who died in this star system alone is at least 1 billion. It's an exaggeration. Jia Yan looked on coldly. At his current level, it is often impossible to be a holy mother. He can help eliminate a force just because he encounters a poor person on a certain planet, but he can also do it to watch thousands or even hundreds of millions. The creatures died without any action. Do whatever you want, this is the real strong man. After reading this, he silently saw that there were still sporadic battles at the edge of the star system. To say that the enemy is strong, they are indeed strong, and their strength is overwhelming. Whether it is individual soldiers or technological weapons, they have completely suppressed the empire, and it can even be said that it is almost a massacre. But it would be too much to say that they are so strong that they ignore the empire. At least the empire is vast, and wars in a mere small star system have become quite intense. And the empire can also take advantage of its huge size to fight guerrilla warfare in your own territory. You know, when it comes to the speed of a battleship, it is quite difficult to catch up with an enemy battleship that is 2 generations ahead of its technology. When they couldn't catch up, the Imperial warships would run back to retaliate. When the enemy wanted to pursue them, the Imperial squadron's warships would speed up and escape. Of course, many people failed to escape during this process. But at the very least, the entire enemy army's progress in conquering the empire would be seriously delayed. The fighting spirit of the imperial people is indeed one of the best in the entire Orion arm. Even during the last war, they showed their combat capabilities at a glance. This time, after decades of recuperation, their war potential improved again. Unfortunately, the enemy's level is too high. Jia Yan's clone finally flew to a major battlefield on the border where the two sides were fighting. The speed of the enemy's advancement within the empire is limited outside a chaotic star system. At least this war zone is restricted. Even if it's just a few days, or even a day or two, that's a limitation. In the habitable zone of this war zone, there are several planets that were originally considered the hinterland of the empire. At this moment, these planets, which have no sense of presence in the empire, have become the front line of the war. Moreover, a large number of imperial troops have arrived on the planet. The space field is blocked by military control. The people of several planets have no opportunity to use space at all, and no army is willing to give up the waterway to them. Therefore, on this little-known planet, neither civilians nor rich people can get out. Unable to escape, the security of the entire planet also began to be turbulent. Countless people believed that their hometown would be the next to suffer misfortune, and began to take to the streets to protest against the brutal methods of the military that prevented them from escaping. But the reason why the empire is an empire is that it has considerable experience in dealing with this aspect. On the one hand, they sent troops that were larger than the people on these planets to carry out extremely severe suppression. On the other hand, they also had a large number of military experts and others to talk about things like wartime regulations and regulations. As long as the people on these planets cooperate with the army and win the war, they will be the heroes of the entire empire. It seems to be an unreasonable approach, but because the people of these planets can't make a sound, more ordinary people in the entire empire naturally side with the army for their own safety and interests, which leads to the army's actions. Instantly received a lot of approval and praise. Find bookstore. Are you going to school tomorrow? It's a time like this. Why are you going to school? In a home of ordinary people, a woman with a rather young appearance shouted and asked questions to an 8 or 9-year-old boy. She is the mother of the child. For the people of the empire, it is normal for young people to have children. And when they talk about young, they refer to those under 70 years old as young people. After all, the average lifespan of the entire empire has reached 350. It is no exaggeration to call people in their 70s or 70s young people. Moreover, this mother was only in her 30s. On Earth, it was common for a 30-something-year-old to have a 7 or 8-year-old child, not to mention an empire where the average age of marriage was 70 or later. Mom, I want to go to school to learn Yin-Yang Dao. Obviously Yin-Yang Dao has just been introduced to our planet as the most powerful cultivation technique. I finally have the opportunity to come into contact with this technique of the supreme mosquito ancestor. Why should I give up going to school? The child was obviously different from the average 7 or 8-year-old child. He was much taller than others, and his body was much stronger. What Yin-Yang Dao? This kind of thing belongs to the people on Earth. Do you think the people on Earth will teach us imperial people the real Yin-Yang Dao? Besides, at this time, even the Earth people who teach Yin-Yang Dao should hide at home, right? Don't go to class, okay? It's too dangerous now. Set a small goal first, such as remembering in 1 second, Shikiju mobile version reading website. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2478. No. The teacher will not hide. He is a real warrior. He came to our empire as an earthling and went through all kinds of hardships just to teach the people of our empire the yin and yang Tao. He said that unless he died, otherwise as long as he lives, his class will be open. The little boy's defensive words gave his mother a huge headache. Okay, I'll take you there to see. If your earthly teacher doesn't go to school, we'll come back, and you won't learn any of his yin and yang skills in the future, okay? Okay. I believe the teacher is at school. In the quiet academy, a middle-aged man with a white beard sat quietly in the center of the classroom. From the layout of the classroom, it can be seen that this classroom is a classroom for martial arts training. Unfortunately, there was no student or teacher around this middle-aged man. He was the only one, sitting alone on the mat in the center of the training ground. He is waiting for his students. Or it should be said that he is waiting to see if his teaching of yin and yang Tao in this civilization over the years will be effective. Clang. Suddenly, the classroom door was pushed open. A little boy appeared with his mother and walked into the classroom. It was obvious that the mother was extremely surprised and covered her mouth as if she was in disbelief. At this time, this so-called teacher from Earth civilization is actually here. He didn't escape. You must know that Earthlings are rare in this civilization. The few who are rare are regarded as unique diplomats. Under normal circumstances, they will be protected secretly by the police department or the army, let alone at this time. Well, even if they can't escape from the planet, they will definitely be placed in a safe place. But this teacher was different. Even when there were sporadic fighting and gunshots outside, he still dared to sit quietly in the classroom and wait for his students. Teacher. I'm here. I knew you wouldn't leave. Suddenly, the middle-aged teacher with a white beard opened his eyes. It was obvious that although he looked middle-aged, his white beard and eyes that seemed to have gone through a lot of vicissitudes betrayed him. This was a man who was probably quite old. However, the so-called age of the people on Earth should not be considered a big deal in this civilization close to the Empire. According to the standards here, he may really be middle-aged. But at least this middle-aged man, oh no, it should be said that he is a centenarian. His mentality is that of an Earthling, and he only recognizes his identity as an Earthling, so he is extremely old. Well, I won't leave, Wenta. I'm very happy that you're here. Now, let's start. No. You shouldn't go to class, you know. There's already a fight outside. This is war, you know. You should be like us, even if you can't escape from the war zone, you should at least hide at home. This is to protect yourself. The best way to keep students safe. What you do is called dereliction of duty. Before the man finished speaking, he was stopped by the student's mother. With one sentence, a big hat was pulled down. Dereliction of duty? The man smiled. Don't worry, the war has not yet reached this neighborhood. If there is really danger, I will let the children go to a safe place to hide. No, I don't trust you. If you really think about your child, you should let him go home with me now instead of learning yin and yang Tao from you. Could it be that after learning this extra day, he will be able to practice to a strong level? The strength of the person. The mother's words made the man feel less comfortable. Humph, today is a more crucial lesson. I am preparing to teach them the most important secret of unlocking yin and yang energy. If they can master it, they might become Earth-level experts tomorrow. Do you think this is important? This is not a reason to sacrifice the safety of the child. It is not too late to start studying next week, next month, or even next year. If you die, you will have nothing. Haha, the battle between the strong is sometimes fought over time. If your child misses today, even if he learns the necessary things tomorrow, he may still miss the opportunity to be promoted to a stronger person. Do you think it doesn't matter, Wenta? Do you think this doesn't matter? The man had a conversation with his mother, and then turned the topic to the little boy. Facing the gazes of the teacher and his mother, the boy's face became nervous for a while, and then suddenly became determined when he met the gaze of the man with a white beard. No. I think this is very important. I want to become a strong person, not just at the earth level, but also at the heaven level, starry sky level, and even the venerable level. I want to step into those realms. Teacher, you once said that it's too late to learn yin and yang Tao, and there is no chance to advance to more levels, so I hope there is a disciple who can replace you and enter the high level. Teacher, I want to be this disciple, replace you in the future, and see all the powerful scenery in this universe. The little boy became more and more excited as he talked. The old man's brows relaxed as he listened, but his mother's face became increasingly ugly. She still wanted to say something, but the little boy had already bowed respectfully in front of the white-bearded man, and then sat down, ready to listen. In this case, the mother naturally could not say anything more. And at the same time, the classroom door was pushed open again, and other boys and girls walked in from outside the classroom door. Without exception, these children either sneaked out of their homes to go to class, or they were followed by helpless people. Elder. This is the charm of men's classes, or it can be said that it is the charm of Onmyoji. Oh? It smells a bit familiar. No, can you bump into familiar people in a place like this? Outside the high-walled compound of the school, a man who seemed to be in a hurry and merged into the panic of the planet suddenly stopped. He looked at this relatively high-end school with great interest. Orion Arm Alliance Interstellar Academy. I have heard of this kind of academy before. When the Orion Arm first formed an alliance, someone proposed to establish a broad education model in order to resolve the barriers between major civilizations, that is, to promote it in various places. Learn the history and science and technology education system of each civilization, so that each civilization will gradually become familiar with other Orion Arm civilizations from strangers, and the sense of unity will be strengthened. Could this be one of them? This man was extremely curious. You should know that although he had a general understanding of many operations of the Orion Arm Alliance, he did not have time to see how they were implemented in detail. So by chance, he met such an acquaintance who might be familiar to him, and he was able to enter it and see what was going on. As for the obstruction of this high-walled compound, the man smiled slightly, and then without any movement, he walked towards the wall. Then with a whoosh, as if he were made of a phantom, he penetrated the wall and entered the campus. During the entire process, not only did the guards not see him, but even the alarm system did not respond at all. This shows that this man's strength far exceeds the upper limit of the alarm system, and it is normal that he cannot be detected. The man put his hands behind his back and looked around the campus. Then he felt the familiar atmosphere and gradually had many memories. The campus is exquisite, but to him, who has seen a lot, it is nothing more than that. But the owner of this aura became somewhat excited after he remembered who the other party was. "Long time no see. Is it him?" I asked why I didn't see him when I returned to Earth this time. It turns out he came to a small planet in the Empire. I don't know why this guy doesn't take care of himself and is still so far away, messing around in the stars. The man smiled, looked in the right direction, and walked towards the old acquaintance with a strong aura. During the whole process, he walked past the huge number of police and guards due to the war, but no one noticed him. It was as if these people didn't even see him, a living person, walking past their eyes. "Teacher, do you think that at the end of the yin and yang Tao cells and even atoms will have positive and negative differences? How is it possible? It's amazing, but who can do it?" As soon as he reached the door, the man heard the surprised voices of children coming from inside. At the door where the man was standing, there were many parents waiting together, as if they were waiting for their children to finish class, and every one of them was so anxious that they wanted to pick up their children and leave. But they can't do this, not to mention that the children don't agree. The Earthling inside is said to have a very important position. If they really do this, the Imperial Ministry of Foreign Affairs might find trouble for them tomorrow. So the man who arrived mixed in with a group of parents and seemed to become one of them, quietly observing the activities inside from the window. The man came to the window, looked inside, and saw the person he had just guessed. Hey, he actually came here, but this guy is indeed a lot older. This man is the latest clone sent by Jia Yan to the outside world, and his appearance is different from that of the Earthling Jia Yan. He is a completely new clone, the like of which no one has ever seen before. He came to this battlefield to see how the Empire was fighting the enemy, not to interfere with anything. To him, such a war, even to a weak clone, is like an entertainment ground, where he can come and go as he pleases. When I got here, I felt a familiar atmosphere, so when I came in to take a look, I just followed my heart, and it didn't matter whether it was reasonable or not. However, it was precisely because of this casualness that he met his acquaintances and was surprised to find that the killer who was so careless and unscrupulous in his actions had turned into this kind of character as he got older. That's right, inside the classroom, the seemingly gentle old man teaching the children was actually an acquaintance of Jia Yan since he was a weak mosquito. The killer, the beard. Today's bearded man is already over 100 years old, not much younger than his parents. So it's normal for him to get older. However, his temperament also changed, and he not only gave up his career as a killer, but also gave up his career as a high-ranking military official in the Earth Alliance, which surprised Jia Yan. But people will always change gradually over time. Even if you have a beard. Now, he has no idea what he has experienced, and he has become quite calm, and he is regarded as a teacher of Onmyoji who teaches the youth of the Empire, and his words are refined and elegant. To be honest, Jia Yan has never experienced such a huge change in any of his acquaintances as his beard. Interesting, did these changes in him only start after he learned my yin and yang Dao? Jia Yan looked at the wall. There was a photo of his Earthling Jia Yan hanging on it, and there was a description that he was the ancestral master of Yin Yang Tao. He also wrote about Jia Yan's general experience, and also wrote the strength is unfathomable and so on. Being hung on the wall, it looks a bit weird and a bit proud. Jia Yan smiled self-deprecatingly. In addition to Jia Yan's photo hanging in the center, there are also many photos of Earthlings and aliens hanging. Jia Yan doesn't seem to recognize any of them, but these photos all show that these people have a deep understanding of the yin and yang Dao. In the development of the Orion arm in the past few decades, it has played a vital role. Of course, almost all of them are strong men who practice yin and yang. Even the little niece Jia, who was extremely naughty at the time, was hung in a more important position openly, With the words, the earliest generation of geniuses on Earth played an extremely important role in the development and growth of Yin and Yang Dao. It was fine to praise him as the founder, but to praise Xiaoqi so much made Jia Yan feel a little embarrassed. After all, from his perspective, this niece was just a naughty little girl, and he had put in a lot of effort to teach her Yin and Yang. Of course, after Jia grew up, she may have played a lot of role in the growth and development of Yin Yang Dao in the Orion arm, so it was embarrassing, and it cannot be denied that she indeed should have played a lot of role. After listening for a moment, Jia Yan shook his head again. This beard, his attitude is correct, and he respects the cultivation techniques he has learned extremely, but the problem is that what he teaches is indeed a bit superficial. Many principles of Yin and Yang Tao are not that profound. He abruptly mentioned the cultivation on the ancient earth, and also mentioned the relatively mysterious word Tao. It sounded very high level, but the children below listened. It's very likely that I didn't learn anything. However, Beard was still explaining tirelessly, and the children listened without any objection. Maybe we misjudged this earth teacher, what he said was really good. Yes, even a parent like me got goosebumps all over my body after hearing this. I feel like after learning Yin and Yang Tao, we can all succeed in practicing it. I don't know if he can recruit adults. We are old, but we don't have the opportunity to practice. Unexpectedly, Jia Yan's explanation that he thought was too cumbersome even deceived the parents who were listening outside the window, making them feel infinitely fond of him. Okay, now no one will jump out and pull the children away. But just when Jia Yan was listening silently, and the parents were relatively relieved to let their children study, they heard the sound of a cannon outside the school gate and exploded. Boom boom. Set a small goal first, such as remembering in 1 second, Shikiju mobile version reading website. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2479. Boom boom. The ground shook, and the whole classroom shook. Has the war really reached this kind of place? This is the International Academy area. Damn it, didn't our civilization submit a letter to the other party from the beginning, explaining that this place is an international area, and that there may even be students and teachers outside the Orion arm? These foreign bandits completely ignore the rules. Everyone in the entire college, including the teachers, was angry. The parents of the students are also extremely frightened. You must know that they agreed to let their children come to this college because they know very well that this college is an international school. There is almost no war in which an international school will be attacked. Even though the empire was treated like that during the previous war, the forces from the outside world all abided by this unspoken rule. But this time is different. Although the invading enemies can also see the shadows of the forces that attacked last time, outside of them, there are also strange and incomparable forces mixed in. These people will not comply. Law. In the classroom, feeling the worries of the children and parents, Bearded's face changed slightly, then he stood up and walked to the window. At the gate of the interstellar school that can be seen from the classroom, there are several soldiers from the Empire, who are resisting attacks from the outside world with great difficulty. They may have thought that the enemy would give up the attack once they got close to the school area, but contrary to expectations, the enemy's attacks showed no signs of stopping, and even seemed to deliberately rain down bullets on this area. These attackers simply don't take interstellar regulations seriously. The bearded man looked ugly, and he was extremely angry that he was so presumptuous towards outside visitors. The reason is actually very simple. He has been walking among the stars in the past few decades, from the initial battle captain to the commander of a small Earth Alliance fleet, and then became a simple diplomat. and this regulations was signed by him personally following Jia, who grew up 10 years ago, to the border of the empire, and with representatives from dozens of star regions outside the Orion Arm. Without exception, the troops who came to attack the Orion Arm today and wreaked havoc in this empire were all named by the civilizations who signed the regulations. It was a blatant violation of the regulations, and what made him even more angry was that he had participated in this matter, and the other party destroyed the regulations, as if they had denied his efforts. 2 troops of 50 people? Humph. After looking at it for a while, the bearded man's face turned cold, and he said to the students and parents outside the classroom, "Don't worry, I'll be right back." After saying that, the bearded man jumped out of the window. Jia Yan saw his figure outside the classroom and couldn't help but sigh again. This guy is much stronger than when he was a little mosquito. Of course, even his personality has changed a lot. It seems that age can really affect a person. But, I'm afraid he is relying on his heaven-level peak strength. Alas, it's a pity that the enemy does seem to be more than 50 weak people with ordinary Earth-level strength, but they have troops behind them, and those strong ones, they have been secretly watching this place for a long time. Maybe they are waiting for a teacher in this international school to come out to fight, and then they will have a reason to openly attack the facilities included in the international regulations in order to tear them apart. For Jia Yan, there is naturally no sense of beauty in fighting at this level. But what surprised him a little was that this beard actually allowed him to practice and understand Yin-Yang Dao, at least the simplified version of Yin-Yang Dao that was transmitted to the earth, to an astonishing degree. Bang! The first blow contained yin and yang in both fists, and the attack was so powerful that it frightened Jia Yan. Good guy. No wonder he dares to become a teacher of yin and yang. This is my simplified version of yin and yang, and he understands it to a very deep level. Jia Yan was surprised because this guy's understanding of yin and yang Tao seemed to vaguely include the ancient Tao on the earth, and his energy and spirit were different from those of ordinary yin and yang Tao practitioners. The punch is like the wind and the power is like a dragon. Each punch and kick has a certain charm, and along with his movements, each blow contains the positive and negative forces of yin and yang Dao, and he is well executed every time. So from Jia Yan's perspective, this bearded man, the combat effectiveness has reached or exceeded the average Starry Sky elementary level. Okay, I didn't expect that there are people on Earth who can understand my yin and yang Dao to such a level now. Although from my point of view, it is still like a child playing house, but his understanding may be correct. Is it something that fits this Orion Arm region? Jia Yan was a little surprised. He didn't expect that his simplified version of yin and yang Dao would be developed in a new direction by a guy who he thought was not very smart in the past. It's not that Jia Yan himself can't do research, but what he lacks is this concept. It's like asking someone who has already gone to college to teach kindergarten children why 1 + 1 = 2. This is a difficult problem. For Jia Yan, it is common sense that 1 + 1 = 2, but it is difficult to teach children in kindergarten. I am afraid that new ideas are needed to teach, but Jia Yan does not have this kind of teaching method. Therefore, this novel concept that bearded people have learned is also an opportunity for Jia Yan to broaden his horizons. Boom! The bearded man first jumped over the high wall of the Interstellar school, and then instantly flew in front of an enemy who was about to attack the Imperial soldier, because he clearly saw that the soldier not only wanted to attack the Imperial soldier, but also wanted to. A thing similar to a rocket launcher projects a large cannonball into the Interstellar Academy. One of these things was enough to cause a large number of casualties, so he naturally refused to agree. Who? The soldier only saw the silhouette of the figure flash before he was hit in the chest by a punch. After the man made a ho-ho sound, he fell to the ground. Someone strong comes out of this school. Kill him. How brave! We don't attack international schools. How dare people from international schools attack us first? This is outrageous. There is something wrong with this international school. No, there must be something wrong with all the interstellar schools in the Orion arm. Just wait and be destroyed. At this time, a string of words were prepared, and before Beard could defend himself, they were sprayed out from the mouths of the soldiers around him, which made Beard surprised for a while. Then he discovered that he seemed to have fallen into the enemy's plan. Justice prevails in people's hearts. Just wait until I die. The Beard looks a bit domineering, and he even calls himself Old Man. But that's right, for an Earthling over 100 years old, there's nothing wrong with calling yourself an old man. Die. Snapped. In the next moment, this furious heaven-level expert hit another enemy soldier's Tianling guy with one blow, making him look like a fool. But more than 50 enemy soldiers began to use all weapons without any scruples. Their purpose is to attract powerful people within this international school to take action, and then they can take the matter online, and even use it as a reason to attack all targets protected by international regulations in the future. Therefore, this strategy can be described as sinister and extremely vicious. Jia Yan, who is inside the school, can see far enough in this kind of thing. It can be said that he has spent all his life in battle, although the war he is facing at this time is like they are playing house, but the basic tactics and methods are still the same to him. This Beard seems to have become calmer. Unfortunately, his mind still seems to be that of the hairy boy back then, but it is only slightly obscured by the current old man's figure and appearance. When Jia Yan saw this, he roughly understood that the character of the bearded man had not changed. However, he still did not choose to take action personally. The current situation is just like his grandson and the little princess of the empire on the other side. For Jia Yan, it is a kind of mentality of watching a show. If any of them develops interesting things, Jia Yan will enjoy it. And if he takes action himself, well, a senior domain lord personally takes action in such a small war? If you think about that kind of scene, you will know the outcome. Believe me, it will be very boring. Bang. Bearded's fighting ability was actually much stronger than Jia Yan had imagined. He swerved left and right, trying his best to withstand the enemy soldiers' attack on the school. Once, he even flew up and knocked a soldier to death. A single missile fired towards the interior of the school was kicked away. When the missile exploded in a ruined building in the distance, the entire school, including the parents who had just blocked their children from coming to school, burst into wild shouts. This teacher is really good. It seems that not only is he not a wandering earthling who comes to this planet to make money, but he is also a real strong person in the yin and yang way. You know, a strong person at the top of the sky level may not seem to be strong, but in Orion's arms, he is at least above average. If the strength of yin and yang Dao breaks out and reaches or exceeds the elementary level of the starry sky, then it belongs to the master of the Orion arm. Every time it faces such a master, the Orion arm needs to use a large amount of troops to offset it. Strength, or shoot with high-tech weapons. It can be seen that with this Beard, even though he was older when he grew up and his potential was not expected, he is still strong enough. Oh! It's amazing. This kick has the same style as I did back then. It's so cool. Jia Yan was surprised. Especially when he kicked the missile, he felt a little numb. After all, the bearded man is an ordinary person. A strong man close to the first level of the starry sky is really an ordinary person to Jia Yan. And when he was of this strength, when he saw missiles or something, he would definitely turn around and run away as soon as possible. Well. Bah, I must have kicked him back then. This Beard is indeed a person who learned from me in yin and yang. He has a temper and I like it. Boom boom boom. Before the bearded performance had completely stopped, he panted and pulled out a knife in his hand. Jia Yan's eyes flashed, and he keenly discovered that this knife was actually something given to several meritorious officials when he stayed on Earth as the Mosquito ancestor. Speaking of which, this knife is good or bad? Of course, It is a magic weapon for the Orion arm, but when it is used as a technological weapon, it has no advantage at all. At most, it can block bullets and is not easily attacked. Just break it. Dang dang dang. No, the beard is really starting to resist bullets. Jia Yan had some goosebumps again. What the hell? How did this stupid guy become more handsome after his beard turned white and his face became older? Damn it! He actually walked forward with the bullet in his hand. It was amazing. His courage was even comparable to that of me. After killing a few more soldiers, the entire 50-man enemy force, even those hiding in the ruined building, were killed by the bearded man who smashed his sword into the wall and killed them. Seeing him flying off the ground, crashing into this house and then into another house, all the teachers and students in the school cheered and shouted. It must be said that this seemingly old man, the battle is so cool. This performance really shocked even me. Can a weak person be the strongest among the weak? Hey, why did I say something wrong? Jia Yan smiled, then looked further away, glanced briefly, and sighed. Because he sensed that the real enemy strongmen who had been ambushing them in the distance were already heading this way. They are even happier if Bearded kills someone. Even the fiercer his resistance, the more reason the coalition of these forces will have to add all the interstellar facilities in the regulations to their attack sequence in the future. This performance was so beautiful. It's such a pity to lose it now. Besides, the beard can be regarded as an old friend of mine. Besides, he is still promoting my yin and yang dao. It's hard to let him die here while I watch. Are you ready? Jia Yan's smiling eyes flashed again. He was still standing among the parents. A group of parents stood at the window, watching the handsome battle outside, but no one paid attention to him. So Jia Yan's clone walked to one side and looked inside the classroom. He found that a section of the window strip was quite suitable, so he stretched out his hand, and after a slight sound, he ruthlessly tore off the window strip. Then the metal window strips instantly turned red in his palm. And the shape also changed rapidly, and soon it turned into a shape that was not too different from the bearded man with a knife in his hand. Well, that's good. Let's add some positive and negative forces. A small yin-yang dao weapon will become a powerful weapon of his level, hee. Jia Yan walked to the unoccupied window on the other side, holding the knife in his hand. At this time, the entire knife was filled with a large amount of positive and negative forces. This knife is the yin-yang dao magic weapon that Jia Yan has been studying for a long time and is now quite effective. And even if this knife is just a casual creation of his clone, if it is taken to the yin-yang sect in the central star region of the Milky Way, will be regarded as important treasures. Of course, compared to Leta's hammer-shaped magic weapon, it is completely incomparable, because even his real body spent a lot of effort to make that thing. Leta, a junior in the galaxy, got it in his hands. He can fight the territory lord, but the long knife he made casually in his hand is countless times worse. Set a small goal first, such as remembering in 1 second, Shikiju mobile version reading website. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2480. This knife was made casually, and the materials were extremely ordinary, but after all, it was made by him personally, and it was at least one of the top 100 magical weapons in the Yin-Yang sect. How brave! This interstellar academy actually hides people who influence the war. It seems that the existence of Interstellar Academy is no longer necessary. Die. At this moment, a group of powerful enemies in the distance rose up from their hiding place with terrifying strength and pressure, covering the bearded man. Are you coming? When Jia Yan saw this scene, he threw the window strip in his hand, no, the big knife in his hand, into the air. There is sweat on the beard and head. After all, we are already old. After receiving the support of aliens, the medical and biotechnology of the Earth people has theoretically given the Earth people a lifespan of 300 years. However, it is impossible for their group of pioneers to really be 100 years old. Even at this age, he still has the same physical fitness as an ordinary middle-aged person. That's how it is with this kind of thing, theories are often just theories. No matter how advanced the alien technology is, it is absolutely difficult to put it into practice. So at his rare age, Male is not the Jia family's parents. He has received a lot of cutting-edge medical support and Jia Yan's stronger alien methods, so the 100-year-old Mime is quite weak physically. After playing for a while, fatigue had deeply enveloped him, making him unable to jump as high or fly as fast. But even in this state, he still tried his best to let his power sublimate again, because he felt that there were some earth-shattering forces farther away, coming towards him. Damn it, have you fallen into a trap? Xiaoao is right. After all these years, I still have the same irritable character as before. The bearded man felt extremely bitter. He had been thinking about modifying his character since his early years, so he deliberately studied a lot of Chinese history and lived according to the ancient Chinese traditions, so that his mind was as calm as water. But now, he found that he was still the same as he was decades ago, with no ability to make any plans. Just now he saw enemy soldiers attacking from the outside and possibly threatening the entire school, so he go into battle impulsively. Now I can see that the enemy is well prepared. Knowing that there is a master in this school, he will ask 50 soldiers to lure the snake out of the hole. Then the master will arrive. After killing the master, he may even make a fuss about this matter. The Orion Arm Alliance has fallen into deeper passivity. His intentions were good, but because he didn't think things through clearly, it might even lead to a greater disaster. Isn't this a replica of his previous failures? Here we come, alas, facing such a powerful enemy, there is nothing I can do. I didn't expect that after coming out of such a catastrophe on Earth and facing so many battles, I, the old general, would die in the end. In a place like this, it's not even my homeland, the Earth. That's all. This can be regarded as a wonder for people on Earth. Feeling the terrifying strength, Beard completely understood that he couldn't defeat him. Not to mention his current lack of strength, even if he was in full condition, he would definitely not be able to defeat him. Because, all the people who come are Starry Sky level. Don't think that the Starry Sky level is not strong enough. To carry out the task of suppressing and occupying such a small planet, the strongest people will not exceed the star level, and the strongest people assigned to various war zones are almost the venerable level. It's a small piece. There are several Starry Sky level experts in the school area, and they all think highly of this area. So the arrival of 4 or 5 Starry Sky levels was not a surprise, but I didn't expect that they would actually set up an ambush and use conspiracy and tricks to make the teachers in the school take action. This made the bearded men helpless, and they still had fun with so much force. Means, should we not let the weak play? That's right. He stepped down from his high position precisely because he gradually understood that with his character, strength, and potential, he would definitely be unable to do anything more for the Earth Alliance. So he entered the universe. He happened to have rich experience in traveling to extraterrestrials. He taught the children of various civilizations the yin and yang Tao. On the one hand, it increased the influence of the Earth, and also made the yin and yang Tao more prosperous. He also had some selfish motives. That is, while traveling, he can enhance his sense of existence and perhaps make a significant mark in history. Unfortunately, this plan has now come to an abrupt end on the small planet of the Empire. If a few star levels come, he will definitely die. Just as he raised his eyes and looked into the distance, a figure of a Starry Sky level powerhouse had already flown here from a distance. As extraterrestrial creatures, their strength matches their body size. When they look at their faces, they can see that this Starry Sky level powerhouse has reached a height of more than 20 meters, with a chin of more than 1.8 meters tall. The beard creates a strong contrast. He waved his claws, preparing to disembowel the unknown teacher from the Interstellar school and turn him into a corpse. There was no time to react. When he raised the knife to block, and blood spurted out of Beard's mouth. The long knife in his hand was also broken into several pieces. What was even worse was that his body crashed into the wall. There was a loud noise, smoke and dust flew everywhere, and a large amount of dust was raised. Of crumbs. He is indeed a weakling. How many more actions do we need? I'll leave it to you. Behind the starry sky-level strongman who attacked the bearded man, there were other voices joking. It seemed that the other strongmen were not ready to take action. But even if there is only such a strong person, I am afraid that it is not something that Beard can resist. Hey, thank you for that. Let me kill him. The strong man who attacked Beard with the first blow thanked him affectionately, and then, despite his size, his speed exceeded Beard's speed, and he shot out like lightning. He raised his paw, ready to pluck the bearded head off entirely with one claw. The situation is extremely critical. At this moment, Beard could only hear a voice of brainwave power appearing in his mind. Take the knife. When the voice came, he felt a shadow that was faster than a starry sky-level powerhouse, shooting at him like lightning. He subconsciously obeyed the words of the voice and took the shadow in his hand. As soon as he saw it, he was shocked. It was a long knife, almost identical to the broken one he held in his hand just now. This. Boom. Before Beard could be shocked, the 20-meter large creature came in fiercely to catch and kill him, as if Mount Tai was pressing down on top of it. With no more time to think, the bearded man followed his own Onmyado moves and raised his sword to block it. Buzz. But in this sudden moment, he felt an even more shocking fact. The long knife in his hand, which was similar to the one he held before, instantly responded to his energy and poured out a large amount of positive and negative attributes. This is not energy, but the inherent properties of this knife. To put it bluntly, it is like an amplifier, making him feel that his yin and yang dao has become super handy, exploding with extremely terrifying power. What on earth is this? The bearded man felt that this knife was like his own arm. Not only did his strength increase horribly, but it also seemed to be tailor-made for him, making it extremely powerful. Before he could have any more thoughts, his long knife had already struck the claws of the attacking monster. Then with an even more surprising sensation, he felt that the long knife in his hand was the same as cutting through a thin piece of paper. Like thin slices of meat, it quickly sliced through the claws and arms of this powerful creature. The 3-meter-thick arm, as thick as paper, was cut quickly by the magic weapon in his hand, and then a large amount of blood spurted out. Ah! The screams of the strong man at the beginning of the starry sky could not be heard without end. Beard himself was also shocked. He clearly didn't feel the slightest resistance from this strong man, so why did he cut off the opponent's arm? However, he immediately pinned the reason on the long knife that he got inexplicably in his hand. He knew that this knife was definitely the only reason for his enhanced combat power. Is this a strong person helping me? However, this sword is definitely not something that a strong person can do with help. It does not have the slightest energy on its own. It only conforms to the laws of yin and yang dao and is extremely profound. The principle of yin-yang dao can increase the power of yin-yang dao users, and it is more like tailor-made for his energy and body structure. What kind of strong person is he? He knows yin-yang dao and can do it to me. He has such a deep understanding of the energy, and besides, no one in the Orion arms can master this manufacturing method. He was petrified. But no matter how stupid you are, you won't be so stupid as to give up your current advantage and let the opportunity to fight miss. Bearded is an old guy who has been fighting for a long time. Although he is not strong, he still has a lot of fighting experience, so he does not think about who gave him the long knife at the first time, and kills him first. Let's talk about the starry sky level in front of us. The eyes of the starry sky beginner who had his arms and claws cut off by Beard's sword showed disbelief. He could not imagine that the so-called Orion arm teacher who had just destroyed his weapon with one blow and was even injured in an instant, unexpectedly, in an instant, he transformed into a strong man who could easily injure himself. How can this be? Are you pretending? There was only one explanation. After flashing in the mind of the starry-level warrior, he discovered with a horrified expression that the sudden burst of sword-wielding warrior had already adjusted his state and was slashing with the sword again. Onmyoji. After the victory of the Orion Arm's previous invasion war, this path has attracted the attention of all surrounding star regions. Many strong people have a good understanding of Yin and Yang Dao. At least they will be shocked if they meet a Yin and Yang Dao practitioner. Its offensive power has aged well. But now, this entry-level expert in the starry sky was shocked again. It's not shocking for anything else, but it's shocking. Why does the Yin and Yang Dao in front of me seem to be a little different from the strength of the Yin and Yang Dao practitioners I know? It is obviously the strength of the peak of the heaven level, but the power of the attack seems to have been increased too much. At least how many times more powerful is it than an ordinary peak level warrior? This. Don't even think about it. This strong man at the beginning of the starry sky raised his remaining arm with great ferocity, preparing to engage in a life and death showdown with the Onmyoji teacher who had inexplicably exploded with fighting power in front of him. Bang! The idea was nice, but the outcome was almost the same as before. The long knife made of an unknown material was like a magic weapon. After increasing the power of Beard's Yin and Yang Dao, it cut open his arm. Moreover, cutting off the arm was not enough. This time Beard had more power. After this experience, he was no longer satisfied with cutting off the enemy's arm. Instead, he went up the arm and cut the opponent's head diagonally. The sharp blade went all the way up and cut the opponent's Tianling cap directly in half. He really didn't expect that the strong man who he thought was invincible just now would be destroyed by his own chops like a vegetable and a melon. Everything is the result of the long knife in his hand. Poof! After landing on the ground, the bearded man suddenly changed his expression when he saw several starry sky-level powerhouses watching from a distance. However, before rushing forward to surround and kill him, he glanced at the direction where the long knife was thrown before, the Interstellar. The school classroom. But even if you look up, except for the windows, which are full of students and parents, and a few teachers, there are no other people around. No one suspected of being a strong person was found. He sighed, knowing that if he really wanted to hide the strong man who could give him such a treasure, he would probably not be able to find it himself. Moreover, another more important situation had already occurred, and he had to give up the idea of looking for that senior expert and face it with all his heart. That was the remaining 4 starry sky-level experts. They had recovered from the situation where their colleagues were killed by a peak heaven-level expert. Now their expressions had changed drastically, and they were all besieging them. They couldn't understand why the speed and energy of their attacks were like those of ordinary top-level warriors, so they suddenly burst out with such terrifying power. Looking for the book didn't look like a person at all. It's just the pinnacle of heaven level. Well done. Even though Beard was frightened by the strength of the 4 starry sky-level powerhouses, he could only bite the bullet at this time. So he went to the meeting alone, picked up the sword he had just obtained, and charged forward. There is a big difference in speed between the two sides. The 4 strong men on the other side are all 10 or 20 meters tall, but their speed is faster than that of a bearded man. At first glance, they look like a terminally ill old man with a white beard. His legs and feet were too nimble to launch a desperate counterattack against the monster. But this is not the case. The bearded man found that the appearance of this knife was like the biggest support in his life. Even for just a moment, he had already felt that while the blade of the knife amplified him, it also calmed him down, telling him all the time his own physical condition. This will allow him to control his situation more smoothly, and at the same time, he can gain momentum and strike out with an unprecedentedly powerful sword when his strength reaches its peak. Die. You dare to charge back when you are surrounded by 4 starry sky level experts? You simply don't know how to live or die. The 4 starry sky level powerhouses had extremely ugly expressions on their faces, and then they all launched a shocking attack on the bearded man. Set a small goal first, such as remembering in 1 second, Shikiju mobile version reading website. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2481. Faced with the attacks from the 4 powerful starry sky level enemies, Beard's face was calm. Before their attacks came to his body, the long knife in his hand suddenly took action. This move was earth-shattering, and the energy that had been preparing for a long time exploded, 10 times faster than the previous move. He felt that he and the sword were integrated into one, and the feeling of taking action was soft and powerful. Especially the power of Yin and Yang Dao, after being multiplied several times by the sword, could actually continue to increase the power when taking action. The power was compared to he used the previous sword and it was strengthened at least 10 times. Puff. The round energy waves radiated out at a tricky and cruel angle, but at the same time they had a rather admirable beauty. Wow, I saw the bodies of the starry sky level powerhouses around them split into 2 pieces, or their internal organs flowing out, and their blood spread all over the earth. With one strike of his sword, he strangled all the starry sky level powerhouses around him. The teacher is so handsome. Within the school, some students shouted in surprise. The parents of the students also showed expressions of disbelief. You know, they know more than the children who have little knowledge. They fully understand what strength the alien creatures that are 10 to 20 meters high represent. Previously, when this teacher faced an elementary enemy in the starry sky, he was knocked away by a single blow. They believed that this teacher was dead. But after getting up from the ruins, he seemed to have transformed into another person, easily killing the enemy. That was not all. When 4 more starry sky beginners with similar strength came later, he seemed to burst out again. With stronger strength, he can directly kill 4 enemies with one sword. Ho ho ho, you must die. The last creature, whose strength seemed to be at the peak of starry sky, looked at the beard with distracted eyes. He really didn't expect that he, the 5 most powerful junior soldiers in the starry sky, who thought that they would be able to take over the task of taking over this war zone, would end up in the hands of a teacher from such a small starry school. Not to mention the teacher, they originally believed that the extremely weak Orion arm, except for those few strong ones, could be used at the starry sky level. But a little teacher on a random little planet made him realize that today's Orion arm is probably not the original Wuxiaomon. Poof. After thinking so much, the biological powerhouse at the top of the starry sky elementary level fell to the ground, his breath was gone, and he could no longer die. Am I going to die? I knew I was going to die from the moment I took action, but at least I'll die later than you. The bearded man smiled lightly and put the new weapon in his hand, the long knife, into the scabbard of the previous knife. He found that it fit perfectly, as if it was the same one. But he understood that it was not the same one at all, the levels of the two were too different. After doing this, he did not look around at the enemy soldiers who were rushing forward again. His eyes flickered, he retreated violently, jumped into the school wall again, and said a shocking sound. Sound. This wall is a boundary, anyone who enters will die. With a buzzing sound, the energy from the top of the sky spread out, and it was quite powerful. All the enemy soldiers and creatures were hesitant. The bearded man didn't think too much about whether these enemies would enter, because he knew that he was just scaring the opponent. If he really wanted to delay it for a little longer, they would definitely attack again when they were supported by other strong bosses. Things had developed to such a stage, and he knew that the enemy could not really be intimidated by him, a peak heaven-level expert, even if after he obtained this sword, his strength reached the explosive power of the starry sky, there would be no exception. A high-level powerhouse in the starry sky is no different than a little flea in this kind of interstellar war. When he returned to school, he didn't think that the school's seemingly towering walls could stop the enemy army. Instead, he would use his power to kill the 5 starry sky classes in one go to frighten the enemy forces below, and then return to the school to find the only possible chance of survival. That's right, even in this desperate situation, he still believes that life exists. That vitality is the strong man who gave himself a powerful metal sword. He knew that since this mysterious strong man could give him this sword, he must not be weak in strength. Moreover, seeing that this sword is so consistent with his yin and yang dao, it means that the giver is either a person who practices yin and yang dao, or they are people who are also related to Onmyeto, so they are friends rather than enemies. As for strength, would someone who could take out such a treasure casually be considered a weak person? He didn't believe it. So as long as we find this strong man, there might be hope of survival. At least there is a better chance of survival than if you were to fight head-on with the enemy army innocently, right? You must know that the enemy was only killed by him, the 5 starry sky level experts, but the commander of the war zone behind them was a venerable level. And above the war zone, there are even half-star or even star level experts. Even with this long sword, he is only a starry level person, how can he escape? Bang! Flying into the classroom window, this white-haired old man with long beard looked like an ancient immortal, with a sense of immortality. This elicited cheers from children throughout the classroom who were looking at their teacher. You must know that they would originally admire teachers who can speak great principles. As for how strong they are, they don't know. But when they go home, they tell their parents every day how strong their Onmyeto teacher is, but no parents want to believe it. The reason why parents don't believe it is very simple, that is, how can a truly powerful teacher be willing to teach on such a small planet in the empire? Even if they were willing to be teachers, they would definitely go to the imperial capital or a more advanced planet. Unexpectedly, they witnessed today that there was really a strong teacher equivalent to the Sean Kong beginner level or above, teaching their children. Teacher, you are back. Are you feeling well? Teacher, I have some water here. Come over and take a sip. The people on Earth are really friendly. I knew the people on Earth were good people, but I didn't expect that the teacher was such a good person. He was willing to risk his life in order to save the children in the school. Teacher, I don't know about the current situation. Do you have any idea about the progress of this matter? Maybe the enemy forces from the outside will attack. While the parents praised the beard, some people were testing the teacher to see if it was because he had already thought of a way out. They knew that now the school was going to end. If the teacher in front of them had the means, he might help them leave together, otherwise the enemy soldiers outside would kill them, the students and their parents. Because things have progressed to this point, parents must have much more on their minds than their children. Thank you for your support. Please wait a moment while I go to find a senior. The bearded man clasped his fists at the parents and students around him, asking them not to disturb him for the time being. Hearing this, all the parents were shocked, knowing that things had indeed turned around, so they took their children with them so as not to disturb the teacher who had just returned in triumph. Tap tap tap. The bearded man started walking in the corridor. At this time, the corridor outside the entire school classroom was already empty, and no one was still in the corridor. He thought, the direction where the long knife flew out just now was next to this classroom. Originally, there might be that mysterious master among the parents, but he felt that it shouldn't be, because he knew the details of the parents. No one was strong, at least no one had reached the starry sky level or above. Huh? Is there anyone? Rounding a corner, his beard was slightly startled, and he spotted a figure with his hands behind his back, looking out at the enemy army from the window. Hello. He hesitated for a moment and was about to go forward to say hello. Oh. What's the matter? The man with his hands behind his back turned around as if he was surprised. However, although this person's face is relatively handsome and upright, he does not have the aura of a strong man. He seems to be an ordinary person, exactly the same as the parents over there. The bearded man looked at this person, and his original intention of asking him if he was a senior disappeared in a blink of an eye, because this aura was different from what he had imagined. No matter how he looked at it, he looked like an ordinary person. Just people. I wonder if you saw anyone walking past here just now? Especially someone with a knife. The bearded man asked politely. No, at least I haven't seen him. I wonder if the old gentleman has any urgent need to find this person? If it is urgent, I can help you look for him. This strange, ordinary man was quite concerned about the beard thing and expressed his willingness to help find someone. No, thank you sir, I can just look for it myself. After asking a few words and wasting a little time, Bearded Beard didn't dare to waste any more time. He quickly clasped his fists and prepared to leave. There was not much time, so he had to hurry up. If he was too late to find the strong man, he, his children, and others might be in danger. When the bearded man turned away, the ordinary man behind him smiled slightly. Old sir, I seem to be carrying a knife just now. It looks very similar to the one you were holding. I don't know if it is mine. How about you lend it to me? What? The bearded man's footsteps suddenly stopped, almost causing everyone else to fall out. He turned around in disbelief and looked at the person he had just thought was an ordinary person. But now, when I look at him, I can see that this man is not an ordinary person. The previously ordinary and unremarkable existence is now bursting with energy that is hard to look directly at. Even if you don't fight him head-on, you know that this is definitely not a strong person that you can match, and he is so strong. It's so surprising. He even thought of the Mosquito ancestor who fought in the Orion Arm and helped the Orion Arm achieve a great victory, the giant mosquito that had been helping the people on Earth. Precisely because he had felt the power of the giant mosquito, at this moment, he actually equated this person's strength level with that of the giant mosquito he had seen. You know, the giant mosquito back then had a strength above the stellar level. As for the star level, they are already the most powerful people he knows. Going up to the next level, although he knows that there is a galaxy level, they are definitely gods-like characters, and he has never been exposed to them. And the person in front of him actually gave him such a feeling at a glance. He was petrified. Hello, senior. There is no need to call me senior. We are destined to meet each other. You can just call me husband. The ordinary man waved his hand. He is Jia Yan's clone. Senior, I have used up your sword. Please take it back, senior. The bearded man was still a bit clever. Before saying his wish, he first took out the long knife he had received from the other party and returned it respectfully. As he expected, this strong man didn't care about such treasures and waved his hand again. Since I gave it to you, I won't take it back. Just take it. This thing is specially made for you. No one else can use it smoothly except you. Then thank you, sir. The bearded man was really afraid that people would take the knife back. He was sure that if he lost the knife, he would never encounter a better weapon than this in his life. Seeing this guy, like a thief, taking back the knife he gave him, Jia Yan seemed to have traveled through time and space, returning to the situation when he first saw the beard of one of the two killers. Haha, looking at it now, things have changed, and the beard has aged, but the naive energy from the beginning is still there. By the way, sir, I wonder, sir, are you, a master of yin and yang on our planet? The bearded man wanted to ask who Jia Yan was, but when the words came to his mouth, he felt it was not polite, so he changed his explanation. In fact, this question is in vain, because there are only a few masters of yin and yang dao on the earth, and as a former high-ranking military officer, he has almost recognized them all, unless a peerless genius has emerged in the past 10 years, and quickly cultivation to the level of venerable, otherwise he would know it. As for the man in front of him, no matter from any angle, he didn't look like a newly emerging genius, so he just asked casually which alien civilization he thought he should be practicing yin and yang. The strong one. After all, yin and yang dao has been popularized in Orion Arm for decades. Nowadays, there are indeed many strong men emerging in large numbers, and some of the strong men who were already at the starry sky level have converted to yin and yang dao practice. Now, after so many years, they have been promoted to the supreme level. It is not impossible to reach the level. At least he knew a lot. But what shocked the bearded man was that the man in front of him, who he thought was not from Earth, nodded with a smile. Yes, I am from Earth, otherwise why would I save you? Ah. Are you from Earth, sir? But, I don't know you, so that shouldn't be the case. The bearded man's eyes were about to pop out. He didn't believe that there were yin and yang masters he didn't know in the small Earth Alliance. Okay, let's not mention whether you know me or not. Now let's see how I solve the current problem. Jia Yan waved his hands boldly and turned to look out the window. Solve the current problem? How to solve it? Run away. The bearded man frowned. Set a small goal first, such as remembering in 1 second, Shikiju mobile version reading website. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2482. He believed that even if the strong man in front of him was a venerable level being, it would be difficult for him to escape with so many of them. And asking him to abandon the students and parents was obviously unacceptable to the bearded man. Things. The professional killer back then has now become a good person who saves people. Reality is so exciting. Haha, running away is also a good idea, but I have a better way. Jia Yan shook his head. Then he lifted one of his clone's legs. Buzz. A golden brilliance flashed on the toe of the shoe, and then the shoe fell down lightly with a shock. Boom. Under the astonished gaze of the bearded man, a shock wave visible to the naked eye expanded from the feet of the man in front of him, and then swept silently in all directions. The snow-white beards of the beards were blown to pieces by the strong wind. The children in the classroom screamed and squatted down, while the parents looked around in horror, thinking that the end had finally come. The few heaven-level experts who still existed in the school were extremely desperate, thinking that this must be the arrival of an enemy powerhouse, and that they were going to be in trouble. However, everyone discovered that they were not injured at all after the strong wind. The roar of the waves without wind actually did not affect anyone, as if they were just saying hello. But those who think so are only people within the school. Outside world. With the Orion Arm Alliance Interstellar School as the center point, a circle of shock waves spread suddenly, and then destroyed a large number of surrounding houses. Thousands of soldiers who were about to rush in were instantly killed and injured by the shock wave. A venerable level powerhouse who was preparing to come from further away was caught in the middle of a shock wave in the air. His mind went crazy, and then he fell to the ground with a muffled sound. Grown-ups. No, sir, he's unconscious. What's going on? Damn it, is there anyone stronger in the school? Retreat. Retreat. The soldiers dragged the venerable officer, who was hundreds of meters tall, in fear, and retreated in embarrassment. In an instant, this urban area that had been shrouded on the edge of war suddenly turned into a vacuum zone. The Imperial defenders on the planet fled, and the invaders who were supposed to take over the area also fled in panic. There is a vacuum, as if there is no place left. But no one dares to underestimate this area. The only reason was the brainwave power of the strong man who appeared out of nowhere. Even though no one knows who the strong man is or how strong he is, no one dares to ignore the horror here. This. After Beard settled in Jiayan, he didn't know what happened. But he was at least close to a starry sky-level powerhouse. After releasing his brainwave power and sensing the earth-shattering changes around him, he could stuff an egg into his mouth. So strong? Thank you for your help, Senior. I wonder what your surname is. He said in common tongue with some earthling accent. Jia Yan looked at him with a half-smile, as if he wanted to play tricks on his old friend. So Jia Yan didn't reply to him in common language, but in Chinese dialect. Senior or not, there is no need to mention it, and there is no need to know the name. You just need to understand that I am an earthling. Huh? Chinese language. The bearded man half believed it now. At the same time, his mind was racing, and he had more guesses about the identity of the person in front of him. If the person in front of me is an alien, he probably cannot speak the Earth language well. Although the official language of the Earth Alliance is already in Chinese, there are still only a few people who are willing to learn Chinese in the interstellar world. This is because the Earth's soft and hard powers are not yet adequate. And the fact that the senior can speak so eloquently shows that he really may have something to do with the Earth. Maybe he is actually an Earthling? Of course, he still didn't really believe that there was such a strong man among the people on Earth that he didn't even recognize. With that kick just now, the aura of a venerable level person in a distant place quickly disappeared, indicating that the seemingly easy light step was at least more powerful than an ordinary venerable level attack. Although the Earth has experienced the birth of a large number of powerful people in the past few decades, it is limited by insufficient growth potential, and its resources and foundation are somewhat lacking. Therefore, the venerable level has indeed cultivated many powerful people in the past 100 years. There are some, but most of them are either the Geo family or people related to the Geo family, or aliens who have defected to the Earth, plus a small number of top geniuses who are truly talented in society. This constitutes the respect of the Earth Alliance. Distribution of number of persons. This is just the venerable. If you want to have the ability to easily knock down a creature in the distance that is at least at the beginning of the venerable level and shock it to the point of life or death, then you must at least have a strength that is around the peak of the venerable, right? Even the Supreme Master may not be able to do it. However, there are even fewer semi-star level experts on Earth. Excluding the aliens who have taken refuge, the only semi-star level powerhouses that belong entirely to the internal forces of the Earthlings are those from the Geo family. That's right, the most powerful people on Earth, especially those above the venerable, who have reached the semi-star level, are the three powerful people of the Geo family, Jia Yan, Jia Rong, and Jia Qi. Although Satsuma Temple she has also reached the semi-stellar level, but strictly speaking, she is not a native of the Earth, and she has gradually stopped staying on the Earth recently. After all, after reaching the venerable level, if you want to go up, the only thing you have to fight for is talent. Regardless of Jia Yan himself, his son Jia Rong already has half-star talents, and his wife also has a character with almost perfect genes, so it was expected that he would be promoted to half-star level. As for Jia Qi, when Jia Yan returned this time, she was actually a bit shocked to learn that she had been promoted to semi-star level. Although this girl has become a general level role in the Earth's military, even with the help of a large amount of resources provided by Jia Yan, she should not be able to do so. In the end, he found out that she was attacked and assassinated by the enemy while riding on a battleship. His amulet saved her, but it also gave her an inexplicable chance to get an item that was extremely suitable for yin and yang dao from the enemy. A small piece of star core, after being refined, began to advance by leaps and bounds, and finally broke through the genetic limits of people on Earth, reaching the semi-star level that is now proud of all people on Earth. You know, this is a great opportunity for ordinary yin and yang Dao practitioners. Jia Yan has traveled so many places and has never seen a star core suitable for yin and yang Dao. Although he can transform it with his own hands to achieve some effects, it's similar, but it's still far inferior to the pure natural one. At least, you can't use the modified version for genetically modified beings like the people on Earth. That will kill people. In short, whether it is the venerable level or the semi-star level, how can you not recognize a powerful Earthling who was once a high-level bearded person? Senior, we should take advantage of the opportunity when the enemy is frightened by Senior and let the students and parents escape. Otherwise, if the enemy is stronger, it will be another bloody battle. Although Senior is not afraid, ordinary people are still in danger. Bearded man's speech is completely different from when he was young, more comprehensive and considerate. No, you let them come. Jia Yan waved his hand again calmly. He sent a clone into the Empire to play dangerous games in the human world. Being anonymous was a process, not an absolute necessity. After all, even if his identity is discovered, he just wants to continue playing and let the clone change his face. So he didn't think about hiding his strength with all his strength. If the enemy comes to trouble him, he will fight him. Even if he knows who he is, he will not be afraid. He just wanted to see how long it would take for the mysterious and sophisticated man with the beard in front of him to guess his actual identity. This bad old man must still be as stupid as he was decades ago. Hey, let me expose your true identity. Jia Yan's current mentality is completely in a game. Anyway, all the casualties on this planet were Imperials. As long as there were no Earthlings, he wouldn't be too eager to help. Of course, the number of casualties must not exceed your own estimate. After all, the Orion Arm Alliance is still a whole. If too many people die in the Empire, then as the strongest economy and industry, they will definitely suffer heavy losses, and the entire Orion Arm Alliance will become weaker, even if the Empire then Yanzai stepped in to turn the tide, but he couldn't help much in terms of economy and development. The Orion Arm will spend a lot of time recovering. So when the game progresses to this point, it becomes a matter of how far Jia Yan can tolerate the enemy. What seemed like a serious alien invasion incident turned out to be a matter of attitude for him. With such an attitude, how could he still care about his identity? Let them come. Senior, this. The bearded man wanted to beg Jia Yan again, but he found that the mysterious senior in front of him was already walking forward. He smiled bitterly, understanding that he might not be able to persuade this big shot. After thinking about it, he gritted his teeth and returned to the classroom, giving instructions to parents and children. You must not leave the school, because you may not be safe if you leave. The safest place on the planet is probably the school. The teacher will not be available to accompany you later. If you need anything, please contact the school. Leader, no matter what happens, you can't leave, do you understand? He still took care of his students, and after repeated instructions, the children and parents nodded in agreement. Bearded's performance just now, and the shock wave that appeared inexplicably afterwards, made all the sounds of fighting around them disappear, letting them know that this school was definitely not simple. Then, teacher, I wonder if we can allow our family members to come over and take refuge. One parent suddenly thought of something and asked hesitantly. If this is the safest place, their wives and husbands left at home must also come here. That's okay. You need to get someone here quickly. If there's another battle later, I can't guarantee whether they can enter the school safely. The bearded man is not as playful as Jia Yan. To him, the lives of the students' families are also worthy of attention, so he agreed to the parents' request after some hesitation. At the same time, Jia Yan was walking around the Imperial School. It's really similar to a school on Earth. In the past, I wouldn't have believed that civilizations outside the Earth could be so similar to Earth civilizations. They even have similar human species and can have children. Jia Yan lamented the magic of nature. This Orion Arm area is generally distributed with half of the life civilization similar to human appearance, plus the other half of the life structure of the exotic beast civilization, and it is not only the Orion Arm. Jia Yan has traveled to so many places in the outside world, and found that the distribution of life is really regional, and there are a bunch of similar looking creatures. Of course, this is except for the central star field of the Milky Way. After it became a place that a large number of powerful people yearned for, the species that had been driven to immigrate from all over the place had long been mixed into a big dye vat. Earthlings and Imperials should be able to get along well. Why have they developed to this point? Alas! Jia Yan has no way to solve the grievances between the Earth and the Empire. This is related to the hard power of race and civilization. He is a strong man, but he cannot forcefully let the Earth's population, resources, genes, technology, and medicine, etc., all aspects have improved by leaps and bounds, right? If a strong person had this ability, he would not think about running to a prosperous place every day, but would start building a super powerful civilization on his own. Therefore, Jia Yan has no way to solve the problem between the Earth and the Empire. At most, he can suppress it by force, but the essential contradiction cannot be resolved. If you want to solve this problem, either the Earth will give up part of its interests, or there will be other variables. Otherwise, the two sides are already far apart, and the Earth will have to use financial rules to force the Empire to provide money to the Earth like a blood transfusion. If it were me, I wouldn't even want to give it to Shiyuan, let alone the Imperial people. Jia Yan also understands the Empire, that is, their current huge output and the like must use the Alliance currency, otherwise they will not be able to escape the punishment of the Alliance's regulations, but this is like cutting off the flesh from the Empire to feed other civilizations. Especially Earth civilization. To be honest, Earth's role in the Orion Arm Alliance is not that glorious now. Except for playing the role of savior in the Orion Arm's last war, it has been living on the blood of outside civilizations since then, producing products. Whether it's out or not, it doesn't have the soft power of civilization, and it still occupies a large amount of resources in Orion's arms. This would be a disgrace to anyone. What can I do, huh? Jia Yan was having a headache, and then he was slightly startled. The problem is not the clone here, the enemy here is shocked by the strength he just showed. The problem is on the other side. The clone on the other side of the Stone Man's clone also had an accident. Ah, damn it, which spy revealed our location to the enemy? Run away. Princess. In the small civilization home planet on the other side, the entire underground was in chaos. Set a small goal first, such as remembering in 1 second, Shikiju mobile version reading website. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2483. A few kilometers deep underground, the war spread. The civilized defenders here never expected that their secret base would be uncovered by the enemy. You know, this base has been protected at the highest level by them, and they even use the extraterrestrial version of the protective radar purchased by the Empire, which can hide almost any kind of detection equipment. There must be a mole. There is definitely a mole. Escape quickly. Regardless of whether there is a traitor or not, we are facing the biggest crisis now. If we don't escape, our entire army will be annihilated. Damn it, didn't you say that the enemies on our planet are not strong enough? Why are so many powerful enemies coming? Technology. The key problem lies in technology. Their technological weapons are much stronger than ours. Within the base, a group of enemy soldiers are either huge or average in size, but they are all wearing metal battle suits. They are often able to fight across levels at low levels, especially in this area, where there are a lot of metal. The suit can exert more effective combat effectiveness, so it becomes a one-sided massacre. Boom. Behind the huge metal gate, there is a place like a small square, but there are not many people here, only about a dozen non-combatants, supporting the young girls behind them, and observing the square gate solemnly. They saw that the metal door was bombarded with huge force again and again, and gradually showed signs of deformation. Everyone's heartbeats rose to their throats. They knew that if this door was blasted open, a steady stream of enemy troops would come. Influx, their underground square with no escape route will definitely become their last graveyard. Princess, we will protect you even if we die, please don't worry. A man who looked like a civil servant spoke righteously to the girl behind him. But after he finished speaking, something like a stun gun appeared from the palm of his hand and was pointed at the princess. But before he could pull the trigger, the figure of the young man behind the princess moved first, ejected in an instant, and kicked the stun gun away from him. The face of the girl called princess didn't change at all, as if she had expected this behavior. Everyone, come on, as long as we catch her, we can still survive. The civilian soldier shouted to all the non-combatants around him. It's useless. Even if you come, you can't be our opponent. The beautiful girl said calmly. A group of non-combatants who were still ready to move fell silent instantly after hearing these remarks. That's right, they are just a group of non-combatants, and the strongest one among a dozen of them is only at the beginning of the heaven level. But the girl in front of her has long been rumored to be a relatively talented princess in the Empire's royal family, and her strength is around the mid-level heaven level. And the young man behind her, although the civil servants do not know his identity, they all know that this young man's daily training level is completely at the level of a starry sky level powerhouse, so he is a starry sky level that they cannot deal with. Strong. It was impossible to knock them both down by surprise just now, and it was even more impossible now. Princess, we know what we are doing is wrong, but there is no way to retreat, and we have no choice but to survive. If you are considerate of us, why not go out and surrender to the enemy yourself? If you do this, maybe we still have a chance to survive. A fat researcher knelt down and kowtowed to the so-called princess, begging for mercy. Their lives were now in danger, and their only hope was for the princess in front of them to surrender. As surrender companions, they might still have a chance to be rescued. Do you want me to surrender? I, the princess of the Empire, have surrendered. Maybe you can be saved, but, do you understand? As a supreme noble of the Empire, I also have my responsibilities. The princess walked slowly and walked to the middle of a group of civil servants. She was like a proud white swan, raising her long neck and spitting out sarcastic words. You may think that as a member of the supreme family, my responsibility is to enjoy rights or just be served. That's wrong. As a member of the Emperor's family, I have to protect this honor and all my actions are all role models for the people of the Empire, so if I surrender, how can I be so virtuous and capable that I can be loved by countless people of the Empire? Therefore, even if I die, I will not surrender. Listening to this mere teenage girl's words of desperation, the civilian staff around them looked ashamed for a while. They are soldiers, but now when the enemy is about to break through their secret base, they want to plead with a girl for salvation. Forget it, I still have heaven-level strength. I can kill one by one later. I am also a civilized soldier. The only heaven-level powerhouse among the civil servants smiled bitterly and became full of pride and ambition. Haha, I have lived for so long and done so much research, but I can't even compare to a teenage girl in dealing with people. I am too ridiculous. That's all. I have a gun in my hand and I will die. Die. So many people have died. Even if we surrender, we may not be able to survive. The idea that surrendering can survive is just deceiving ourselves. Almost everyone present gave up attacking the princess. Only the man holding the stun gun was thrown aside, and no one paid attention to him. After gritting his teeth, He took out this civilized firearm from the holster, but after hesitating for a moment, the gun muzzle, aiming at the gate of the square that was about to be breached. It's really interesting. Now we can see how Gia-11 will react. In the desperate situation, no one noticed that deep in the subspace, there was an extremely terrifying stone man's body, flying out from the deep subspace and arriving at the subspace on the surface of the base. Originally, such a military base would have a great impact on the subspace, but maybe they never thought that such a powerful person would come and forcibly correct the chaos in the subspace and stabilize it. He just watched the disputes in the square, including the betrayal of the princess just now, and then used his righteous and awe-inspiring words to make most of the people present accept her words and adopt a unified attitude towards the outside world. However, the stone man was not primarily observing the little princess, but more importantly, the young man behind the princess. Yes, this strong stone man is the clone of Jia-Yan. The young men and women caught in the flames of war are Jia-11, Jia-Yan's grandson, and Suya, one of the imperial princesses who has been following Jia-11 during his time in the border area. The civil servants in the square only regarded Jia-11 as one of the princess's bodyguards, but they didn't know that this young man's identity was completely suitable for the princess as a young man from the Earth's wealthy Jia family, and even in some way. In terms of levels, his status as a descendant of the Jia family is on a higher level than that of a princess. After all, the empire has been passed down for a long time, and there are at least dozens of so-called princesses and princes. The Jia family on Earth is not prosperous, and the total population has not yet exceeded 20. In other words, the empire may not be much without Princess Suya, but what will happen to Jia-11, a descendant of the Jia family on Earth? Unexpectedly, I am afraid that the diplomatic situation of the entire Orion arm will collapse. Of course, the people present did not understand. As for whether any of the outside attackers knew about this, it was unknown. Boom. Just as Jia-Yan was watching with gusto, the square gate was finally broken open. In fact, if the situation continues like this, no matter whether Jia-11 is outstanding or not, he is still only a starry sky level, and it is a certainty that he cannot defeat the invading commandos. At that time, Jia-11's only life-saving straw will be Jia-Yan charging his amulet again. That would be quite boring. Jia-Yan used his brain. The moment the invading enemies attacked and opened the gate of the square, his stone man clone smiled and his brainwave power moved. Jia-Yan was inspired by the fact that he was given a sword to beard in another clone before. Why not do it again now? The beard is only the strength of the peak of the heaven level. Although his attainments in yin-yang dao and sword skills are better than Xiao 11's, Xiao 11 is originally a star sky level no matter what, even if he is just a newly promoted star sky level, but in terms of absolute strength and understanding of energy, it far exceeds that of beard, so it is worth looking forward to what kind of energy he can burst out after getting him a similar weapon. Jia-Yan's heart moved as he pleased, because the ability of the stone man's clone was second to none among all the clones, so it could perform much better than the previous clone. When energy enters the normal universe, no one perceives anything. Buzz. A broken metal bar appeared inexplicably at Jia-11's feet, and then the metal bar gradually changed and condensed into a long sword. The style of the long sword is very normal, just like the style used by many strong armies in this civilization, but it has a slightly different shape. After all, Jia-Yan does not want the things he makes to be called a bad style. But it's just a different style. In appearance, this sword has no special features. Coming. It happened that the gate of the square collapsed. Jia-11, who had been made up to look like a young man in her 20s, changed her face wildly. He was regretting why he didn't bring any weapons during training. He had nothing on his body except amulets and clothes. The trainer just now died while protecting Jia-11 and Princess Suya. Now Jia-11 is unarmed. As the true strongest among this group of people, it seems difficult to exert his fighting power, which makes him quite of depression. Human-appearing creatures have such a disadvantage. Compared with the real powerful creatures in the universe, they cannot grow larger, and they do not have sharp teeth and claws. Although some beings can train their bodies, such as fists, to be comparable to steel and iron, bones are used for fighting, but most humanoid warriors still rely heavily on weapons at low levels. Now that Jia-11 didn't even have a weapon and was barehanded, a little despair arose in his heart. How about, I enter the subspace to escape by myself? No, I tried it just now. This time the space has been disrupted and I can't enter at all. He believed that this might be the first time in his life that he had faced such a major crisis since he was 18 years old. Although a star-level strongman chased him last time, he was confident in his heart because he carried the amulet from his grandfather with him and he believed in the power of the amulet. But now that the power of the amulet has been used up, he really has no other choice but to fight on his own. Crisis, a huge, super big crisis. Weapons, where are the weapons? Do I still have to pick up stool legs and hit them? Something of this strength is no different to a strong person. Hey, why is there a sword here? I didn't seem to see it just now. Suddenly, Jia-11 watched the enemy rush into the square, holding guns and various weapons, all covered in armor, and began to strangle people in the square. Jia-11 finally saw that there was actually a man lying at his feet, holding a long sword. If you really want to sleep, someone will give you a pillow. Although I don't know who it belongs to, and it may even be just a sword made of ordinary material, but having a sword is better than picking up a stool leg. His eyes flickered and he picked up the long sword. How, so easy? What kind of sword is this? The moment he took it into his hand, Jia-11 noticed something was wrong, because the sword fit too close to his hand and had a familiar sense of power. This is the feeling of the power of Onmyeto. This sword actually contains the ability to increase yin and yang dao. Oh my god, what kind of sword is this? Is it a weapon being secretly researched in the space? But why would they study something that increases the yin and yang dao? They are in contact with the people on Earth. Not much, the yin and yang dao shouldn't be that developed here either. Jia-11 was dumbfounded. However, he still inherited the fighting mentality from his grandfather. After being stunned for a moment, he was quickly attracted by the sound of the battle. He saw that several ordinary civilian workers were already dead or injured and fell to the ground in front of him, so he picked up the gun in his hand. Sword, rushed towards the enemy. Chiang. The sword was an unfamiliar sword, but when he held it in his hand, especially after the energy was activated, he felt ecstatic in his heart. Sure enough, it has a bonus to yin and yang dao, and this bonus. Is it a bonus for me? It's impossible. What kind of sword is this? Why do I feel several times stronger than normal me? But feelings are feelings, and the true measure of whether one has become stronger lies in actual combat. Puff. When the first sword was thrust out, aiming at an enemy centipede-like biological soldier who was about to fight with the princess, he saw that the primary centipede creature from the galaxy, which should have been able to fight with him, was actually stabbing him. After using this sword, he was easily cut in half. Jia-11 was shocked again. Set a small goal first, such as remembering in 1 second, Shikiju mobile version reading website. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2484. Just a sword, can it really increase one's combat power several times? Is this civilization's weapon research capability really that strong? Or is this sword just perfect for me? At this moment, Jia-11 felt that the palm of her hand holding the sword became extremely hot. This is like his natal sword, which makes his already star-level strength increase several times, and there seems to be more mysteries worthy of his study. How can this not make him ecstatic? Kill. More than a dozen people in the entire underground square fell into despair. Suya raised her handsome chin arrogantly. She was prepared to fight and die like a serious noble. She didn't even want to be killed. The enemy captures it, because this will put the entire empire into a huge passive position. Try to think about it, if the two sides are in a fierce battle and the enemy suddenly sends out video data of himself being captured to the soldiers of the empire, what will be the outcome of the war? As long as the operation here is good and you have to show weakness if you are caught, then the entire invasion war will be affected by you and it will not be a big defeat. However, it is certain that morale will plummet for a while, and maybe it will eventually evolve into a situation that is enough to influence several important battles in the overall war failed. So he would rather die a noble death than become a prisoner. And just when the princess wanted to use her own means to fight the heaven-level creature in front of her, she felt a terrifying pressure coming from behind her that made her hair stand on end. Pyridine. An energy shockwave containing positive and negative power turned into substance, erupted from behind Suya, and then cut into the body of the peak heaven-level creature she intended to be her opponent. In an instant, the creature's body was separated, and the sword light did not stop, turning into a more terrifying sword gang, showing a half-moon shape and slashing many biological enemies in a row. Without exception, these enemies have all been separated from their bodies. Although a section of their body can still squirm on the ground, they will definitely die if they do not receive correct treatment. Who is this? After Suya's heart was shocked, she couldn't think of anyone on our side who was so strong. Because among the strong men who were hit by the beheading, there was a starry sky level existence, but even a starry sky level was killed by a single behead, which was not much different from an ordinary soldier. And a strong person with this kind of strength must be at least a high-ranking star, right? You have to even reach the level of venerable, otherwise it will be difficult to have this kind of strength. But she just couldn't figure out how she could have such a strong man beside her. When Suyani turned around and looked around, she saw a young man holding a long sword coming to her side with murderous intent, his eyes full of sharpness. Is it Jia 11? How is it possible? He is not a beginner in the starry sky, and he has just been promoted. Why did he suddenly burst out with such fighting power? Could it be that Jia 11 hid her fighting ability in front of herself in the past? Suya felt that her knowledge had been subverted. Originally, she thought she knew enough about Jia 11, the mysterious eldest boy of the Jia family, but now it seemed that she did not understand him. Jia 11, who had no idea that she was more mysterious in the eyes of the girl, once again raised the handy long sword in her hand. This sword is truly an artifact. After cutting off the sword just now, Jia 11 felt refreshed, and her originally wavering mind became a little more restrained. Die. He rushed through the body of a heaven-level strong man, and he was extremely fast. After cutting through, this strong man also followed in the footsteps of the previous strong men, and was unable to withstand his attack at all. This underground base is not suitable for a powerful person of the highest level to enter, so the strongest enemy I encounter is probably the starry sky level, and I can deal with the starry sky level. Jia 11's eyes flashed with strange light. This sword makes him seem to have the strength to be proud of the entire starry sky level, but when it comes to the venerable level, he really can't imagine it. You must know that his grandfather Jia Yan was in the last Orion Arm War. At that time, it was rumored that he was also at the venerable level, and that kind of strength could dominate battlefields everywhere, indicating that the venerable level was very powerful. But with his current fighting strength, he is relieved. This underground facility is built directly next to a piece of magma. Even a powerful person with a venerable level is not able to get down so easily. If an existence of the venerable level or above comes, it can only be said to be unlucky, but it must be in such a small battlefield. There should be no strong people above the venerable level. In other words, as long as Jia 11 has the current fighting ability, he can protect himself and others. Anyone who doesn't want to die, get out of here. Jia 11 rushed into the enemy crowd and started killing. However, this whole process has not been smooth sailing. After all, the enemies also have relatively powerful strong men, and some high-tech fighting methods are very effective against strong men. Moreover, Jia-11 only has the attack power of the top level of Sean Kong, but overall, he is still a junior level of Sean Kong, and his shortcomings are extremely obvious. For example, when he counterattacked to the most familiar training ground, there were many equipment and a large area. The enemies, who had learned about his explosive combat effectiveness, built a fortress of more than 30 soldiers here. As a result, when the guns were opened, the enemy Jia-11 was slightly injured. Damn it, the defense here is too strong, Jia-11, why don't you forget it and retreat to the medical area that you just reoccupied? It's important to heal your wounds. Suya looked at Jia-11, who had an injury on her shoulder, with a little pity in her eyes. No, now we have to take advantage of the opportunity to reoccupy this base. Otherwise, they will inform the enemy base camp above. Maybe we will face even larger enemies below His Holiness in the future. No matter how strong I am, I can't resist it. Jia-11 shook her head, and then bit the healing technology item she brought in her clothes. The bandage untied itself and was tied to Jia-11's arm with a squeak. The treatment medicine actively flowed out of it, but it was very painful, and Jia-11 couldn't help it. The pain made me sweat. Suya enthusiastically took a handkerchief and wiped the sweat on his forehead. Okay, you will use your firearms to cover me later, and these people behind you will provide support. I will eradicate them in one go. As long as we capture this place and rescue the trainers imprisoned in front, we will have more. We have several Starry Sky level combat capabilities, and we are more confident about occupying the entire base in the future. Jia-11 moved the sword again, using something called footwork from the earth, combined with the power of a certain secondary development of Yin and Yang Dao, with an elegant and agile aura, and directly ran into the enemy. Seeing that he was so reckless, or fearless of life and death, Suya's eyes flashed with some unknown emotion in her beautiful eyes, but this emotion only lasted for a moment. She picked up her royal firearm and looked at the base companions behind her. They gave a sweet shout, and then led them to shoot to cover Jia-11. After a burst of gunfire, sword slashing, and the sound of various flesh being cut open, a big gap was finally torn open in the training hall, which was the most difficult part to chew. Jia-11 flew in the sky, jumped down, and pinned a strong man in the starry sky to the ground. His small body formed a huge contrast with the opponent's body of more than 20 meters. However, no matter how great the contrast is, strength is strength. Jia-11's current strength far exceeds that of his opponent. He almost turned the world upside down with his own strength and forcibly carved out this prosperous road. 11? It's you. How is that possible? When the trainer was rescued, the trainer who trained Jia-11 personally was the most shocked and unbelievable. Because he personally trained Jia-11, he is the one who knows Jia-11's physical fitness and various values best. In front of trainers, unless they are much stronger, no one can hide their strength in front of them, at least at the venerable level. He didn't think Jia-11 could hide the following from him. However, Jia-11's physical examination told him that Jia-11 was an earthling, and a very young earthling. So he couldn't be a venerable, because there seemed to be very few venerables on Earth now. As for the powerful warriors, Jia-11 is obviously not one of them, and the earthlings are talented, just like that. If you name a young starry sky level, Thuxin, can he produce a teenage venerable level? I won't believe it even if I beat him to death. Even in the surrounding star fields, it was impossible for a teenage venerable level to appear, at least he had never heard of it. Sorry, coach, I hid my identity from you. I am from the Jia family of Earth. My name is Jia-11. There is a reason why my combat power has increased, so don't be surprised. Now is not the time to talk about this. We must drive away the enemy. Go out, trainers, and please work together. Jia 11 openly stated her name, and then asked these trainers to work with her to push back the enemy. His attitude and true identity surprised everyone. Although they already knew that the girl was the princess of the most powerful country next door, they still didn't know that the boy who followed the girl and seemed to have an unusual superior-subordinate relationship with the girl actually had such an origin. No wonder, they have seen this big boy, who often treats the princess without pretense, and even needs the princess to show kindness to him. Unexpectedly, he is the first family on Earth, and it can even be said that he is faintly better than the imperial family. The most distinguished family member in the entire Orion arm who is one step ahead. Jia family. This is a mysterious and legendary family. It is rumored that this whole family has a strong man named Jia Yan who is even more mysterious than the family itself. He has not only saved the Earth civilization several times, but also helped the whole Orion arm in times of crisis, and also cooperated with in the end. The giant Mosquito clan who assisted the Orion arm in repelling the enemy are inextricably linked. There are many private urban legends saying that this Jia Yan is simply a member of the giant Mosquito clan. It is impossible for the low-level trainers to know so much about the Jia family. In short, they know that the big boy beside the princess is as noble and great as the princess. Now this young man from a noble family has saved his group and shown the mysterious strength of the Jia family as rumored. They have even placed the status of the Jia family in their minds to be higher than that of the imperial family. To the extent, after receiving the help of the trainers, Jia 11 and his team's advancement speed has greatly accelerated. In fact, this underground base can be used as a place where the civilization arranges for the princess to hide secretly. It is not without reason. At least it has huge advantages in terms of protection level and complex terrain. The enemy's advance just now was only because there was no strong person here who could play the role of setting the cauldron. When it comes to ordinary mechanisms and ordinary strong people, this base is not necessarily at a disadvantage, at least for now. Ever since, with the help of Jia 11, the big master, with him as the tip of the spear and the help of others, the battle became smoother, and progressed like a dream, and soon a person was killed. The enemy's strongholds were wiped out, and because this was actually their local operation, some agencies were still under their control. With the combination of several major advantages, the enemy troops were killed and retreated in embarrassment. Finally, after drawing a circle-shaped sword light on a long sword, piercing the chest of a high-level Starry Sky warrior, and causing the enemy to retreat violently outside the gate, Jia 11 suddenly roared, "Close the door!" Boom! The outermost metal gate of the entire base fell, isolating the enemy from us. And not only that, before the enemy had time to react, the closed door to the outside passage collapsed. A large amount of magma poured into the passage, and thousands of enemies all roared and screamed. But they had no way to retreat, and their advance was blocked by a super hard metal door. They had no time to react before they were completely swallowed up by the magma. Inside the gate, after seeing through the big screen that the enemy forces outside were completely destroyed and the only road leading to the underground base disappeared, the survivors in the entire base let out a long sigh of relief. We won! We won! Haha! Great! All this is thanks to Master Jia 11 from the Jia family on Earth. Thank you very much, Master Jia 11. Master Jia 11 is really good at swordsmanship, and this swordsmanship is so superb that even a high-ranking Zing can be stabbed to death with one sword. It is really powerful. This is how Earth fights. Yin Yang Dao is actually so strong. It makes me excited when I see it. When I get out, I will learn Yin Yang Dao. Forget it, Yin Yang Dao is not weak, but if you want to learn Yin Yang Dao like Lord Jia 11, I'm afraid it won't be that easy. This is a learning that is not passed down by the Jia family. The people in the base who followed Jia 11 looked at Jia 11 completely differently. They knew that the young man in front of them was really an extremely terrifying strong man. Killing the Star Sky level was like chopping vegetables and melons. The sword in his hand was like a divine weapon. There was no enemy that he could not cut through. Body. Jia 11, how are your injuries? Come, follow me to the treatment area first. The medical equipment here is okay. Suya was a little worried about Jia 11's condition and asked him to follow her. Unexpectedly, she was waiting for Jia 11's inexplicable words. Set a small goal first, such as remembering in 1 second, Shikiju mobile version reading website. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2485. Suya, wait a minute, please ask, is there a place to suppress high-tech weapons in this base? Is there anyone involved in the weapons of Yin and Yang Dao? Ah! Suya was stunned. She couldn't understand why Jia 11 asked. But maybe there was something wrong with the sword in Jia 11's hand, and she wanted to find someone to repair it. She didn't think much about it and asked for Jia 11. But the problem is, after asking for a long time, the conclusion she got made her a little disappointed, and she felt that she didn't help Jia 11. What? Are you sure they said we don't study yin and yang weapons here? When Jia 11 received Suya's survey reply, her expression became a little strange for a moment. Yes, this civilization is dependent on our empire. To put it bluntly, it has no contact with your Earth. Their own technology has not developed well. How can they go to study your Earth's yin and yang weapons? Then, what's going on? Jia 11 seemed to be sleepwalking, but when she looked at the sword in her hand, she knew that this was not a dream. The sword is still in his hand, but he doesn't know its origin. But even if she didn't know where it came from, Jia 11 knew that she couldn't give up this magical weapon. If you get it, it's mine. It means we are destined. I don't care about your origins. As long as you are my Jia 11's treasure in the future. Jia 11 is not the kind of person who sticks to details. In other words, he has a soft spot for the sword in his hand that almost saved the entire base. Even if someone comes out now and says that this sword is his, Jia 11 will don't want to give up. The people of the Jia family have not become very tall people who don't know how to adapt, but are quite flexible, because they still have elders who remember the ordinary life in the past and know how to teach their children ordinary things and what needs to be adapted. Place. Maybe if the Jia family develops for a few more generations, they will become the kind of aristocrats who don't eat the fireworks of the world and don't know the sufferings of the people. But at least the current Jia family is far from that point. In the subspace, Jia Yan watched Jia 11 put the sword into its sheath. He did not tell anyone that he had picked up the sword. He made it look like he had brought the sword from the beginning. Jia Yan's stone giant, a slight smile suddenly appeared on the clone's face. He was afraid that children of this generation would be born with a silver spoon in their mouths, and that they would suffer from brain problems. Unexpectedly, Jia 11 gave him a little surprise. This boy's attitude is at least in line with my wishes. However, how could he not know that the thing was given by Grandpa? This sword is not that simple. Jia Yan smiled. Although Jia 11's sword was just randomly condensed, it is very practical. The knife in Beard's hand on the other side is also a good thing, but because it was made by an Earthling clone that is not as strong as the Stone Man clone, its properties are not that strong. However, Beard is also allowed to practice to the venerable level and use it without falling behind. And if the talent for Beards is not good, I may not be able to cultivate the venerable in my life, so I can definitely satisfy him. The sword here was made by Jia Yan's Stone Man clone. Even though it was condensed in an instant, the power used is more than 3 times that of the Earthling clone. It also contains some of the secrets of Yin and Yang Dao. In the future, there is also some room for upgrades, so it will be okay to use it up to half-star level. If conditions permit, Jia Yan can help upgrade it, and it may still be usable up to mid and late stellar levels. Although I don't know if my grandson Jia 11 will reach the star level in this life, it is still a thought. Jia Yan observed for a while, then shook his head and gave up watching. Because after the contact with the outside world was cut off, the base here immediately returned to normal order and life. Except for a few more people to study countermeasures and some people to try to ask for help from the outside world, no more changes were made. Lots of risky moves? So it's quite boring. And this is where Jia Yan is slightly dissatisfied with his grandson. This little guy actually doesn't know to take advantage of this time to research weapons, and he doesn't even think about trying to find another way out of the underground. If he tries to take risks, even if he tries the method wrong, Jia Yan will also help secretly. Unfortunately, he did not advocate this, which means that his adventurous heart is still not as good as Jia Yan's. For Jia Yan, who has been seeking wealth all his life, his purpose is a little different, and this is also what the slightly unhappy thing about my grandson is certainly not that I don't like it, but I just feel that the child is really an individual and different from myself. The little guy no longer went on adventures and there was nothing interesting to see. Jia Yan cut his gaze and cast it to the side of the beard on the other end. It's quite boring here. The enemy army I defeated didn't dare to send experts? Or are they evaluating my strength? Jia Yan, who had his earthling clone sitting cross-legged, opened his eyes, and then found a bearded man holding a knife beside him, sitting silently not far away, as if guarding himself. Tell me, what is your philosophy? Jia Yan suddenly spoke, which shocked the bearded man. He looked at Jia Yan who had regained his clarity. After contemplating for a moment, he shook his head. Senior, I didn't think much about it at first. I just thought that I did a lot of wrong things when I was young. Later, I got a high position just because I met some noble people, and I also successfully got married and started a business. No accident, my future life will be to have smooth sailing. Just because of noble people is really unfair to others given the mistakes I have made. So, I wanted to come out and see what I could do about my previous mistakes. The bearded man muttered, his face full of self-deprecation and ridicule. He has indeed grown a lot because of his age. In fact, people on Earth are not stupid to begin with. In the past, people on Earth became old and died when they reached 100 years old and their brain power was not degraded. But it is different now, everyone can live for a long time, and because of the activated brain, they can handle more work. Generally, the elderly who are over 100 years old, mostly because of their experience, are actually quite mature and have their own character. And the bearded man with rich past experience is also one of them. Jia Yan nodded and said, so, you went to the job of teaching and educating people, right? For you, although it is a bit unexpected, but if you think about it carefully, it makes sense. Found the right path. The bearded man looked at Jia Yan again strangely, because the words Jia Yan spoke seemed to be his good friend's tone. But no matter how much he thought about it, he could never imagine when he had made such a friend. Of course, Beard didn't think too much about it. For such a strong man, it was a good thing to know him. Besides, he might not have known him on Earth, but maybe somewhere else, and he just forgot about it. After all, it is very easy for a powerful master to prevent others from knowing his strength. Maybe, Senior. Then I would like to ask you if I am brave enough, is the path that Senior is taking now the right one? Jia Yan really didn't expect Bearded Beard to ask him such a rhetorical question. He was startled for a moment, and then he laughed softly. This guy seemed to be mature, but in fact he was still a bit stubborn. Seeing that he asked something, he was not afraid of death and asked him. You don't even know who I am or what my strength is, so you ask this? If not Han, what is it, just to counter a question? He did not refuse to answer, but sat cross-legged and replied in an understatement, Right or wrong, for me, it is just a criterion. When you deal with others, you have developed a mentality of right and wrong, but in fact you have already acquiesced that you are wrong. If you are right, why bother to raise this heart? With my mentality, I will not reflect on right and wrong. Strength is my only pursuit. All truths are nothing more than whether the strength is sufficient or not. Strength. The bearded man was silent for a moment. Jia Yan talks about pursuing strength, but when he talks about the truth, he talks about strength. It doesn't mean power, but it also represents the strength in this last sentence, which does not only include power. The boundaries of strength are broad, and can be work strength, fighting strength, picking up girls, making money, and countless others. So yes, if you are strong enough, you are not wrong, because you are strong enough and everything you do is correct. Do you still worry about right and wrong? Not at all. I understand. Thank you, Senior, for your guidance. He sighed, and then clasped his fists respectfully. Jia Yan shook his head again. What are you thanking me for? This is just my family's words. You will thank me just because of my strength, identity, and status, and you agree that my words are right. If it were an ordinary person talking to you, the truth is, I'm afraid there won't be any waves in your heart, so it's not me you're thanking, just my status and strength. You don't need to thank me. If you want to thank me, just thank you because you agree with what I said. The man with the beard doesn't dare to criticize others. If he dares to criticize others, he might curse. You chicken. It doesn't matter if I don't thank you, and it doesn't matter if I thank you. If you want me to do anything, I should thank you from my own heart. You are the best. Of course, he didn't dare to say these words. In addition, he did gain something in life from Jia Yan's thinking mode. It must be said that he also agreed with Jia Yan's words. You agree with my words because of my strength. Such rhetoric. But isn't this the common problem of humans, or intelligent creatures? What parents and friends say, no matter how reasonable they are, cannot be listened to. However, if you change it to a big shot, a rich person, a powerful person, or someone with a high status, even if they are just strangers, say it to yourself. When such a call comes, I often agree with it very much. Everything is different only because of status. The human heart is like this. Even though he understands this truth, Bearded Beard still keeps what Jia Yan said in his heart, and may have some deeper insights in the future. Is it finally here? The response is really slow. Just when the two sides fell into an awkward moment without chatting, Jia Yan looked at the sky outside the window indifferently, then stood up from sitting cross-legged, dusted off the dust on his body, and walked to the window. Senior, is there an enemy coming? The bearded man also followed to the window and looked at the sky, but found nothing. Jia Yan nodded. Yes, just in time, the family members called by the parents downstairs are also here. Go and make arrangements. After all, you are a big shot in their eyes. Don't say the wrong thing. Your status in their minds is, just like I am in your eyes. Yes, I'll take my leave, Junior. The bearded man nodded, turned, and left. He didn't even ask what the strength of the coming strong man was, nor did he ask whether Jia Yan could resist. Because there was no need to ask. From the unwavering gaze of Jia Yan's clone, he already knew that the coming existence would definitely not be his predecessor's opponent. So what about his strength? Jia Yan didn't look at him, just looked at the sky with a slight smile on his face. It's interesting. Here comes a guy from the lower level of the Venerable. He should be one of the best in this war zone. His body of several hundred meters reminds me of my days at the Venerable level. What a little guy. If the powerful monster approaching from space at lightning speed hears the being below who is preparing to face him say that his body of several hundred meters is so small, I am afraid that his majestic body will be turned upside down. Onions fell upside down and fell to the ground. A creature that is several hundred meters long is like a big mountain to this planet. How can it be so small? You are bragging. Of course, the other party did not hear the words of Jia Yan's clone, and would not know that Jia Yan's words were an expression of his true emotions, because it was so long ago that he was weak, so long ago that he almost forgot what it was like when he was weak. That is, he can remember it clearly at the venerable level, but Jia Yan can't remember clearly the heaven level, and so on. Therefore, when I say that I remember the time when I was only a few hundred meters tall, there is no adulteration. It is just that it is said in a human body of more than 1.7 meters, which is not convincing. While speaking, Jia Yan could already feel the owner of that body approaching the area quickly. Not long after, a large shadow shrouded the sky above the school area, blocking out the sunlight from the star to which the planet belonged. After a moment, only extremely frightening screams could be heard from the campus. For this civilized human being, similar to the people on Earth, he has never seen a creature several hundred meters long in his life. Now he suddenly saw this kind of creature. The appearance above his head was definitely frightening. However, the creature did not pay attention to the screaming and fleeing small civilized humans under its body. Instead, its eyes were like lightning, scanning, and quickly locked its gaze on the buildings in the school, standing there. Outside the window, he looked at his little human body with an unmoving gaze. He locked eyes on Jia Yan, and his heart sank, because he couldn't tell what the strength of this seemingly civilized creature was. It could even be said that he didn't feel whether this tiny creature had any traces of cultivation. But he was certain that this guy was definitely the target he was looking for this time. "Your Excellency, are you the one who killed nearly 100 soldiers of our army and massacred several star-level non-commissioned officers of our army?" Set a small goal first, such as remembering in 1 second, Shikiju mobile version reading website. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2486. The venerable level creature was not afraid of anything. Although he couldn't see the opponent's strength clearly, it might be that the opponent had practiced a unique hidden strength skill. It was not like he had never seen similar existences before, and he was also killed by him. Standing in front of the window, the avatar of Jia Yan, who was confronting the venerable level, did not answer directly. Instead, he raised his feet and stepped on the air step by step. Then, as if walking on a ladder, he just stepped on the air, step by step, from the window. Go out, walk up to the sky out of thin air, and reach half the sky. As he walked, he nodded calmly. "Yes, I did it." "Humph, don't you think you should pay some price for killing our non-commissioned officers without permission?" "Oh? Pay for what?" "Sorry, I don't think so." While speaking, Jia Yan's clone was already walking from the building to the face of the venerable level creature in front of him. He looked fearless, as if he was not worried at all. This venerable level being might be killed at any time. It's like launching an attack. Arrogant. Hearing that Jia Yan actually called himself I and had an extremely arrogant attitude, this venerable level strongman who believed that there was no one in Orion's arms instantly became furious. To the outside world, the Orion arm is like an infant star field. The forces that invaded the Orion arm were only small fringe forces, and not even a few top-level beings were mobilized. But now, the forces that come to attack the Orion arm are far stronger than the few forces at the beginning. There is even a force that has the power of the entire star field coming in. If they hadn't known, the Orion arm would be very powerful. There may be a real great master hidden, so they don't dare to charge too hard all at once. Maybe now they have completely beaten Orion's arm to pieces. Therefore, there is a local being in the Orion arm who calls himself this person and ignores him. This venerable level creature from the outside world who has never taken the strong Orion arm in his eyes is really extremely furious. Boom! The unbridled terrifying pressure fell from the sky in an instant, completely destroying the ruins that had been empty all around. Under the billowing smoke and dust, the school area shrouded by the hundreds of meters huge creature was instantly involved in the turbulent flow of energy. It was like a hell on earth, all covered by dust, as if it had turned into a hell in an instant. Jifen, whether it is life or the school that exists here, it has been destroyed and neglected, and it is impossible for any living thing to survive. Now you know the consequences of offending an exalted being, you weaklings of the Orion arm. This venerable level creature simply does not think that the weak creature in front of him can withstand his own energy impact. After all, he is a strong man with talented energy. Once he launches his own energy impact, it will be terrifying. The power of it will cause an energy impact that is more than twice as powerful as that of an ordinary venerable level powerhouse. Unless it is a powerhouse of the same level, ordinary weak people can really only wait when faced with his impact. Death has come. In other words, he is the kind of being who is most effective at killing those who are weaker than himself. As long as he is not against those of the same level, he can be said to be accurate in killing one, but against those of the same level, this kind of impact may not be useful. I see. Is this the so-called high-level combat power of the invading coalition? It's just mediocre. Just when he looked confident, he heard a majestic voice coming from the school area below. There was a strong sense of contempt in his voice, as if this venerable being was overestimating his capabilities by taking action against him. Huh? How is that possible? The face of this venerable level powerhouse changed. He blew out a breath of energy, which suddenly blew away the smoke and dust below. Then he was surprised to find that a semicircular energy appeared in the area where he had just bombed. The protective area completely covered a half-kilometer radius including all school areas. Is this, a creature with a defensive talent? When the venerable level creature saw such a strict defense, it immediately thought not that the opponent was stronger than itself, but that the human-like creature fighting against it was actually a strong man with defensive talents. After all, he has never seen such a beautiful defensive energy shield in his life. He must be a creature who has been practicing defensive energy shields throughout his life. No wonder he is so arrogant, thinking that his cultivation talent has advantages. Is he so arrogant? Defensive type? Haha. Your Excellency, let's do this. I will give you a chance. If you can do it, I will spare your life. If you can't do it, today I will attack all the invasions of this planet with you. What do you think, if we wipe them all out together? Jia Yan stood inside the school, almost laughing. Do the creatures in the outside world still have such a confident view of the Orion arm? That's right, even if the Orion arm has been open for decades, hundreds of thousands of years of weakness cannot be reversed in just a few decades. Even if Jia Yan already knows that the Orion arm takes advantage of their knowledge of yin and yang dao, they can often defeat the strong with the weak, and their combat effectiveness is even more explosive. However, these reputations are all at the bottom level of strong people. When placed in higher level strong people, the Orion arm doesn't even have a star level weapon, so how can it have a reputation for high-end force value? There is a reason why he is generally looked down upon by the powerful people outside. But they have not dared to attack for decades, and they are only attacking now. Of course, there is a reason. And that reason was because he, Jia Yan, had killed so many galaxy-level experts with one enemy against many, so that no one dared to attack the Orion arm again. Of course, a star field with one strong person cannot truly make the entire star field prosper, and Jia Yan also understands this. In short, he is now within the arms of Orion. The enemy is besieging him again. He cannot sit idly by and ignore it. Moreover, this venerable level is talking nonsense in front of his dignified and senior territory lord. If he is in the central star territory of the galaxy, or somewhere else, even if he killed this venerable level person, then attacked the forces behind him, and uprooted the forces, no one would say anything. So Jia Yan looked like he was pity. But after listening to Jia Yan's words, the venerable creature seemed to have been humiliated. Give me a chance to this powerful person? Ha ha ha, that's such a big statement. The little Orion arm can actually give out such an arrogant man like you. Okay, what chance did you say? Even if I can't do it, I want to see it. How can you, a defensively gifted being, make me and our army on this planet wipe out all of them? The venerable level creature seemed to look down on Jia Yan, but it still did not attack directly. This shows that after defending against his move just now, he has already attached more importance to Jia Yan. Otherwise, he would not have asked Jia Yan what chance he would give. But call again directly. Jia Yan smiled again. He had seen countless similar existences in his life. He looks extremely arrogant and confident, but after knowing that he is no stronger than Jia Yan, he instantly turns into a coward. Although there are many such people at the Domain Lord level, it does not change Jia Yan's mentality of looking down on this kind of existence. Either don't fight, or if you want to fight, be proud to the end. At least Jia Yan started a war with someone. If he couldn't fight, he would just run away. What's the point of giving in? Isn't it embarrassing? Senior is indeed very strong. Not far behind Jia Yan, in the classroom corridor not far away, an elderly man with a white beard looked at Jia Yan's clone who looked like a young man, but his eyes were like an old man's. He contained endless wisdom, and was a little shocked. He knew just now from Jia Yan's various performances and words that this being should be a certain powerful person at the venerable level. Now it has come true. Under the attack of a venerable level, this strong man was actually calm and composed, and protected the entire school with great ease. This is definitely much harder than protecting oneself, but they did it, and it seems as simple as eating and drinking. In the corridor under the beards, more students, parents, relatives, and friends were also very happy at this moment. They listened to the bearded man's words and asked family, friends and the like to come to the school to take refuge. Originally, many people were unwilling to come, but when they heard that there were experts in charge of this school, and even queens whose strength could be astonishing, they all came. What I didn't expect was that the mysterious master upstairs could really resist a powerful master with his own strength. Strong, really strong. Could it be that he is a super master within the Empire? As a planet within the Empire, the people of the Empire really have this mentality, that is, all masters should belong to their empire. Even the so-called strongest person on Earth, Jia Yan, is known as the most terrifying existence in the entire Orion arm. And none of them, not even Jia Yan, believed that his strength was related to their empire. There were even rumors that Jia Yan's strength was inseparable from the empire. Therefore, the people of the empire always believe that there are many strong men in the empire, especially the strong men who are taking action on their planet now. Only their own strong men will save their people in the empire's territory, right? It must be the masters in our empire who came to save us. Absolutely, the empire has not forgotten us. Ha ha ha, look at this offender who still dares to brag. If the strong men of our empire take action, he will not die. There are venerable masters in the empire, and there are even several strong masters who have cultivated to the semi-star level. This is the source of confidence that people in the empire have always believed that they have surpassed the earth. So if a venerable level expert comes, they really believe that although there are thousands of planets in the empire, logically no venerable level expert is willing to come and save such an ordinary planet, but they are still willing to believe in themselves' motherland. At this moment, everyone is paying attention to the conversation above. The extremely handsome Imperial Lord actually gave the enemy a chance. Although it seemed like he was giving the enemy a chance, why did he sound so domineering? Your Excellency, guess what my talent is? Let me give you a key word. My talent is not defense. You have a total of 3 chances. If it is not enough after 3 times, you die. The entire planetary army is behind you. Damn it, think about it before you guess. Jia Yan said calmly. And after he finished speaking, the aura of that venerable level creature changed. Impossible, you are not a strong defensive person? Then this defense. After his expression changed wildly, his expression became gloomy and uncertain. Until now, this venerable man still couldn't understand the specific strength of the powerful human being in front of him. Because he couldn't see clearly, he felt quite irritable and had a kind of frightening fear coming from the instinct of life. Saying that the other party is a defensive talented being is, in a sense, encouraging him. If the other party is really a strong defensive player, then he doesn't have to worry about whether he is unfathomable. But now, this strong man who couldn't see through the strength blocked his guess that the opponent was a defensive type with just one sentence. Not defensive? But what is the terrible reason for this defensive energy? An idea that he dared not think about was born in the mind of the venerable level creature, making him deeply afraid. With great difficulty, he covered up his fear, and then his face turned ugly. After thinking for a while, he thought that since this strong man said that he was not defensive, but his protective shield was so beautiful and strong, would it be possible? Maybe he is an energy type strongman like himself? There are several types of energy type strongmen. Some are strong in attack, and some are stronger in defense. He himself is an offensive type, and if the mysterious strong man in front of him is strong in defense, then it is very possible to create a strong defensive shield at the same level. Humph, Your Excellency, let me first guess, are you an energy-based talent? I hope you won't deliberately hide it. Delaying time will not be good for you. This venerable man seemed to be cheering himself up and spoke in a tough tone. No, I am not an energy-based talent. Also, I want to tell you that I am not delaying anything. How about I show you the evidence, which will also serve as a small punishment for your wrong guess on the first answer. Jia Yan shook his head, and then looked at the farther direction of this venerable creature. Over there is a detachment from the army of the venerable creature in front of them, attacking the city below. The total number of starry sky levels has reached more than 50, and there is no venerable level. However, such a huge number of starry sky levels can kill one venerable level 1, not to mention thousands of ordinary strong men. There are so many up to tens of thousands. As a result, just after the expression of the venerable creature changed slightly, Jia Yan raised his arm. Groan. Puff 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 puff. Bang bang bang, bang bang bang. Boom 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 boom. In the ruins of the city not far away, a large number of soft explosions and various strange sounds were heard instantly. Moreover, the sound did not sound in scattered sounds, but in an instant. What? The venerable level being only noticed that there was a mysterious and terrifying energy around him, even energy that he could not understand. After sweeping through it, a large amount of life breath disappeared like flying in the distant city. And the speed of its disappearance is extremely fast. Set a small goal first, such as remembering in 1 second, Shikiju mobile version reading website.